Zero Starting Life in Another World by Tippi Nagatsuki, casted six-tale novel. Please subscribe to our channel.
Even now, recalling that moment, she found herself stricken with regret. The fingers she had extended were brushed away, even as she lovingly called out the girl's name. The girl's parting words were caring. There was happiness as well as determination in those tearful eyes of hers. Seeing that, her voice died in her throat. Even now, she couldn't remember what went through her mind back then. Even now, she didn't know what she should have said. Even now, she had no answer to the question, what should I have done differently? That was why, even now, she was alone, cowering in the archive of forbidden books, unable to leave. You saw. The fragment of an old memory from the far reaches of her mind made that word spill from her lips. She had spent those empty and stagnant months and years the same way, averting her eyes from that painful past. Why now, of all times, had she remembered that regret, that memory, that girl's name? The most likely explanation was her premonition, a premonition that was much like how she had been refused long ago. Enough! I'm getting you out of here, Beatrice. This time, my hand's gonna lead you right out under the big old sun, and we'll play around until that dress is totally black from mud. Though this time, it was her turn to brush aside the offered hand.
The battle only continued to grow fiercer. The refined solace of the mansion was utterly shattered by the destructive powers at work.
Ah! Oh!
A dance of sparks punctuated the ringing echo. Moonlight beamed into Roswell Manor, the stage where the waltz was reaching its climax.
Marvelous. You are truly marvelous. Just stunning.
One impact shattered a window. Another cracked the floor. The aftershocks shredded a painting on the wall. The sultry voice that reached the ears of the ferocious golden beast seemed utterly amused by the mortal combat that was unfolding.
I ain't happy hearing praise from anyone but Ram.
Blotting out the lovely voice with an angry cry, Garfield threw his mighty fist, which sailed over the head of his foe and punched through the wall behind her. The woman tried to use the opportunity to slip into his blind spot until he came at her again with a lethal follow-up. His arm ripped through the wall he had punched clean through, bringing a whole chunk of it with him.
Ah!
Seeing the incoming attack boasting a surface area 100 times larger than a fist, the woman, Elsa, let out an aroused sigh of admiration. The next instant was so crucial to the outcome of this battle that even blinking would have been fatal. As Garfield's attack lacked any openings, much like the wall he was wielding, instead of trying to fall back, Elsa opted to press forward. With superhuman agility, she minimized the damage she sustained as her black blade flitted toward his neck. A blow with the force of a gale sent Elsa flying back. However, she was certain that, in the exchange, her blade had reached.
Marvelous.
Praise from. You daren't make me happy, damn it.
Elsa murmured in wonder as she remained crouched, one hand on the floor. It took only one look to realize that Garfield had caught her kukri with his fangs. He shattered the arrested blade with one bite and spat out what was left.
From the first exchange, he knew this woman was someone he couldn't afford to be careless with.
Faced with an opponent so powerful that normal methods were useless, Garfield glanced over his shoulder and behind him. There, standing stiffly while observing the clash between the pair, was a woman with jade eyes, Frederica.
Hey, sis! What are you doing just staring at me like that?
Well, I had not intended on...
Sorry, but it really don't look like I'm gonna have time to show off. The general put me in charge of keeping you safe, so please.
Garfield chomped his fangs as he called to his hesitant sister. However, Frederica's reactions were dull, and her legs remained motionless, though it was no fault of hers. The battle between Garfield and Elsa had reached a level that left Frederica unable to intervene. Assistance was out of the question. Simply moving required courage. That being the case.
It's time to show what a good little brother I am.
Garf?
Seeing Frederica hadn't moved, Garfield decided to act first. When he ferociously leaped toward his foe, Elsa smiled charmingly, already knowing what he intended to do.
Thinking of your sister at a time like this. What a kind boy.
As she spoke, the killer parried a bestial claw with her knife and leaped backward, clearing a great distance. Garfield followed after her, shifting the battlefield to somewhere deeper in the mansion. This cleared the path to the sleeping princess, Rem. If Frederica took Rem with her and left while her brother kept the enemy occupied, then there was nothing to fear.
Garf.
As he rained a flurry of punches, a clear, unwavering voice called out to him from behind. There was no time to look back, but his sister had only one thing to say to her little brother, whose back had grown far wider than the one in her memories.
I believe in you.
It was a reunion of mere minutes after 10 years apart, but it was enough. She trusted in her little brother's strength, and he was determined to live up to his older sister's expectations. That was all they needed.
Damn right you do.
His strength surged as a fire roared to life in his belly. Elsa twisted her body to dodge a swing of his bestial claws, but she was too slow. Garfield snagged her black braid and slammed her into a wall before proceeding to race down the corridor with her.
Ah!
Roaring, Garfield charged straight into the mansion, with Elsa still pinned against the wall. Dust and debris flew from the wall as it broke, leaving her unable to resist the heavy impacts. All he had to do now was snap her neck, cave in her skull, and grind her against the wall until she was reduced to paste. Then he'd regroup with his friends and…
Letting your mind wander in the middle of our dance. What a naughty boy.
Faster than his mind could think, he miraculously flinched away out of sheer instinct. A moment later, what should have been a direct hit grazed his left ear instead. Now off balance, Garfield completely lost his footing. In fact, the floor itself was missing. He fell right through the gaping hole that Elsa's swing had produced. The slicing attacks kept coming even as he entered a freefall. Garfield relied purely on intuition to deflect them with the shield strapped to both his arms. Defense, defense, defense. Ultimately, he couldn't intercept every strike. Blood flowed freely from fresh wounds that appeared all over him. The moment he made contact with the floor below, Garfield rolled away to escape the zone of death. He rose from the carpet on all fours while glaring straight ahead. A white cloud of dust parted to reveal his opponent as though she stood atop a moonlit stage. The beautiful assassin smiled, gripping her kukri with both hands. Her upper body was smeared with blood.
Looks like Sis is on her way. The rest is up to the general.
Sensing the presence still on the floor above had already set off, Garfield sighed in relief at the completion of his first objective. According to Subaru's plan, the remaining objectives were…
Wait, what were they again? Aw, crap! I can't remember. Oh well.
No doubt there was a backup plan in case Garfield didn't win. A plan for keeping everyone alive as they sought shelter in the sanctuary. That didn't matter, though. It was fine even if he forgot. As long as he won, there was no need to remember that plan. With that final thought, he slammed both his shields together in front of him. Garfield steeled himself with the clamor of metal scraping against metal. Elsa licked her lips at the sight.
Ilsa Grimhilda, the bow hunter.
Garfield Tinsel, the sanctuary's ultra-strong shield.
The assassin's blood-red smile melted into the darkness right as she started freely bounding in all directions, awaiting his pursuit. Just before they collided, Garfield crinkled his nose, bared his fangs, and howled.
This is one hell of a first battle, General, so you better hold up your end.
Just how many times had he visited this oh-so-familiar room to meet her like this? The first time they'd met was in the evening of the day Subaru had first arrived at Roswell Manor. He had no trouble breaking through the illusion she'd cast on the hallway with ease, setting foot into this very same archive of forbidden books. There was little doubt that both of them had made the worst impressions imaginable during their first encounter. After she robbed his still-recovering body of mana, Subaru went down without even putting up a fight. Burning with the need for revenge, he later went on to prod and annoy her at every opportunity, continuously interfering with her alone time. He spent 2 months at Roswell Manor like this. During that time, Subaru and the girl, Beatrice, argued and fought on numerous occasions, getting along rather childishly. When they saw each other, a commotion was bound to occur. Yet, curiously, their likes and tastes matched in the strangest and most unexpected of ways. Why? Somehow, it constantly bothered Subaru that she seemed alone. Even now, he thought of those days, and the time they'd spent together as something irreplaceable that bonded them together. Subaru had returned to see Beatrice once more, and this time he would never, ever let go of her again.
You want to take Betty away from this place.
Bewildered, Beatrice repeated the declaration Subaru had made upon entering the room. Still seated on the stool in its customary position, she hugged the black book to her chest all the tighter. She clutched the book of knowledge entrusted to her by her mother, its pages of prophecy blank.
Is that any of your business? I wonder? No one asked you to do such a thing.
I figured you'd say that, but I don't have time for a long debate. I'm bringing you out of here with me one way or another.
What a self-serving would you leave this instant, I wonder. Leave and have a good cry on that girl's lap.
You trying to start a fight? You keep that up and it's gonna be war?
Subaru's lips trembled in shame as she brought up memories of him making a fool of himself. If anything, Amelia's lap pillows were an enormous blessing, but he couldn't rely on her at the moment. Amelia was currently giving her all in the sanctuary. It was Subaru's job to do the same at the mansion.
Anyway, there's no time for chit-chat. You know what's going on outside, don't you?
What? I understand there are intruders in the mansion, I suppose. Still, why should Betty get involved in this dispute? Anyone who wishes to scuffle in the dirt should do as they please.
Unfortunately, the situation isn't friendly enough to be called a scuffle. I left the fight against tough enemy number 1 to a promising newcomer, but he's too much of a softie.
Shaking his head at Beatrice's words, Subaru racked his brain as he mulled over how their allies had been deployed throughout the estate. The greatest asset they had, Garfield, was almost certainly already engaging the main threat, Elsa. Both possessed superhuman strength, so they could be considered evenly matched. Or at least, Subaru hoped so. He couldn't be certain. It was less that Garfield was too soft and more that he was incredibly kind-hearted. That was the proper way to express it. Subaru and company had strategically relied on that kindness to defeat him during their confrontation at the sanctuary. How his deeply emotional personality would influence the current combat situation at the manor was anyone's guess. Subaru couldn't dismiss the possibility that Garfield would, instead of pitying his opponent, be so concerned for his allies that it'd end up dulling his claws and fangs. To get everyone in the mansion out safe and sound, Garfield had to be in peak fighting condition to draw off their powerful foe.
Basically, that means I have to eliminate any obstacles that get in the way of our lethal weapon so he can go all out. I've left Petra in Otto's hands, and I'm relying on Frederica to secure Rem, so...
That leaves just you and Betty? Is that what you were trying to say? I wonder...
Yep, that's pretty much it.
If there was nothing holding him back, Garfield could unleash his full power. That was why the top priority was getting Petra and the others out of the mansion first. He was sure Frederica would secure Rem and meet back up with everyone else in short order.
And the last piece of the puzzle is me getting you out of here. If you don't want to run hand in hand, I'll carry you in my arms or on my back, whatever you like. Just so we are clear, I'm not budging on this.
Don't make me repeat myself. Is your help even necessary? I wonder...
When Subaru tried to take one step closer, Beatrice refused him in a low voice. She swiveled her head about, as if meaning to address the room instead of Subaru.
Betty is in control of the Great Spirit's archive of forbidden books, a place isolated from the fleeting outside world. No matter what menace lies beyond those doors, does it even matter, I wonder? Your concern is unnecessary.
Nah, I can't let this slide. Your archive of forbidden books is awesome, all right? No argument there. But it's got a fatal flaw. More importantly, the other side knows exactly how to beat it.
This critique of her passage ability, the foundation of her confidence, made Beatrice raise her eyebrows with displeasure. Certainly, when it came to staying hidden, the archive of forbidden books offered countless advantages. However, Subaru had seen for himself on previous runs that these advantages were not absolute.
Your passage is only effective on closed doors. If someone opens all the doors in the mansion,
the last one would lead straight into the archive of forbidden books without fail. In a prior run, Elsa had used that method to trespass upon the archive, attacking Beatrice in an attempt to take her life. The archive wasn't safe. He was doing his best to explain, but...
Why does the enemy know of this weakness? What does the enemy know of this weakness? I wonder.
Beatrice's question made Subaru catch his breath.
Roswell told them. That must be how they know.
She'd arrived at the conclusion so quickly that Subaru had no chance to offer up any excuse. He could only gaze in astonishment as Beatrice's certainty deepened. The assailants had come to the mansion on Roswell's instructions, and it was necessary to defeat Beatrice's passage in order to achieve their goals. Roswell must have had a reason for why that had to come to pass. In other words,
Is Betty's death recorded in Roswell's Book of Knowledge? I wonder.
after voicing that musing, Beatrice briefly let out a breath. Phew! Like a spontaneous sigh of relief, the sight sent Subaru into a fit of rage.
You! What was that sigh just now? Why do you look like you're okay with all this?
If you have come this far, surely you understand. Roswell is simply upholding what is written in the Book of Knowledge, I suppose. If this is the result, Betty's fate is already sealed. Betty's fate is already sealed.
What the hell are you? Roswell's book is his, and your book is yours, right? Or are you telling me that book you're hugging says at some point he's going to have you killed?
Subaru jabbed a finger toward the Book of Knowledge, which Beatrice clutched as if hoping to shatter her resignation. The truth was that he already knew Beatrice's mystic tome was empty. Not once in 4 centuries' time had any prophecies of the future appeared within its pages. When Subaru shouted at her, Beatrice cast her gaze downward and slowly opened the book in her arms. Then she turned its contents toward him, revealing there was indeed nothing written inside.
There isn't anything in here, I suppose. Betty's fate is a blank page.
Then that means you don't have any reason to let Roswell have his way. You should decide what you want to do for yourself the way you always have. The way you always have.
It's the way I always have.
Beatrice's eyes went wide, blinking as she softly repeated those words. Her voice, sounding as if it was devoid of all emotion, left Subaru speechless. However, those blue eyes of hers glinted with something unmistakable, a cavernous sorrow.
That's just what did Betty decide on for herself in all those days?
As she murmured, Beatrice meticulously turned the pages of the tome with her slender fingers, as if she thought those pristine pages represented the sum total of the long years she had spent blank and empty.
I have continued to protect this mansion all alone because Mother asked me to. When did I ever make a choice of my own? Who is this Beatrice you speak of, and what has she done for herself?
Beatrice?
Is Betty's life not as barren as this book? I wonder, is it not as empty? I have decided nothing. I have decided nothing for myself. No accomplishments or achievements. I have nothing at all.
Softly, she closed the Book of Knowledge. Beatrice slowly stroked the front cover of the tome that bore no title. She caressed it gently, enviously. Then she quietly spoke again.
Yup, would been better if Betty were simply a book.
Unable to indulge in even fleeting fantasy, Beatrice confessed her sad, painful wish. If only she could be a doll without a heart, a storybook unshaken by the passage of time, then she wouldn't have to suffer. But she couldn't, and so she grieved.
Valid. Betty does have a heart. After waiting for so long that all hope and faith faded away, certain thoughts came unbidden. Were these fears and worries, I wonder? Many a night have I gathered my memories and clung to them, anxious that I might one day forget my mother's face or smile.
Digging her nails into the book she clutched to her chest, Beatrice bit her lip as she glared at Subaru.
There were times when I was afraid of being alone and desperately wanted to be with someone, anyone. But as the years went by, everyone eventually left Betty behind. They all said something incomprehensible about how it was for something so important. Mother left. And so did Roswell. Even Ryuzu.
Beatrice shouted, on the verge of tears as her face contorted. The name she shouted struck Subaru as he recalled everything he had learned about Beatrice back in the sanctuary. In the short time the two girls spent together, she had undoubtedly formed a bond with Ryuzu Meyer, the girl who had become a sacrifice to protect the sanctuary, something that scarred Beatrice's heart to this day.
Betty, the spirit Beatrice, has always been alone, destined to be left behind by everyone else. But now I can rest a tiny bit easier, I suppose.
Why? Why would you feel relieved that you might be killed by someone you know?
The reason is obvious.
Beatrice responded to Subaru's strained voice with a single nod. A fleeting smile came over her lips. It was one that showed a yearning for something that lay deep in the past.
Even if it's only within Roswell's book of knowledge, the fact that Betty has been recorded, does that mean Mother has not forgotten about her daughter, I wonder?
With a little smile, Beatrice spoke those words as if they were some kind of salvation. The girl seemed happy, as if a death sentence written in the mystic tome left by her mother was exactly what she hoped for, as if she could find peace by dying at the hands of a man who belonged to the same household she had treated like family for centuries. After 400 years of faithfully waiting and wishing, Beatrice was happy to finally fulfill her mother's wishes, even if it meant death. It was precisely because she'd insisted on following her mother's instructions with blind devotion that Beatrice couldn't do anything but accept her fate. She believed in Echidna the witch, like a martyr ready to sacrifice herself for the faith. This much was plain to see in the pure liberation that suffused her smile.
Give it a rest already.
That unsettling, intolerable smile made the fire in Subaru's chest burn all the hotter. The tragic happiness Beatrice felt after seemingly confirming her mother's love was a twisted thing. It was utter garbage, as if condemning her daughter to death could ever be considered a form of motherly love.
What do you intend to do? What do you intend to do?
Subaru was so consumed by righteous indignation that he had stepped forward without even noticing. The disconcerting expression on his face made Beatrice stiffen warily.
Were you even listening? I wonder, what is it you plan to do? Does it need to be explained that whatever you intend, Betty shall show no mercy? I wonder. I have already accepted my fate.
What a load of bullcrap. You're just like Rose Wall. You haven't changed a bit. Actually, you're a lot worse. At least Roswell knows what he's doing. Why do you have to make everything more complicated, damn it?
Boundless anger began welling up within him. When he thought about it, ever since he had become involved in the events surrounding the sanctuary, Subaru had been wrestling with his wrath over and over. He had been angry with himself during the trials, angry at the witches who toyed with him, angry at Garfield, who toyed with him, angry at Garfield, the stubborn kid who looked down on him, angry at Roswell, the man who was trying to prove the frailty of Subaru's beliefs by doggedly adhering to what was preordained, and angry at Amelia, who refused to believe in not only Subaru's love, but also herself. And now he was angry at fate itself after seeing Beatrice abandon all hope.
Beatrice, you're an idiot. Dumb as rocks, that's for sure. It hurts just looking at you.
You? Well?
Subaru's sudden outburst of anger and the abrupt segue left Beatrice speechless. The irritation and confusion she felt prevented her from immediately raising her voice. Subaru took advantage of that bewilderment to pile on her even more.
You had 400 years to figure this out. Why is the only thing you ever came up with so extreme? Why'd you think of only one plan? There are so many other things you could have done. Damn it!
Oh, of course I thought about it. Betty tried checking if there was anything on these blank pages again and again, but nothing ever changed.
That's why you're an idiot. What about trying to heat them to see if anything was written in invisible ink? These days, no one falls for that trick anymore, even when it's a novelty New Year's card. Consider some more possibilities, would you?
The persistently blank pages of the tome had convinced Beatrice that her fate simply led to a dead end. But if that wasn't necessarily true, if there was another possibility, then…
Like, what if your mother messed up and gave you the wrong book by mistake?
Before you cast. Huh?
The latest theory Subaru proposed was so haphazard that Beatrice didn't even know how to respond. That surprise quickly gave way to anger as Beatrice's ire only grew.
Do you intend to insult Mother? I wonder. Mother would never make such a stupid misstep.
Can you say for sure it absolutely couldn't happen? You don't have even the slightest doubt? Are you so certain the only possible explanation is that your mother deliberately handed her own daughter a book with nothing but blank pages?
Subaru used fallacies and questionable logic to massage and obfuscate the truth. It was still a mystery to him what Echidna's true intentions had been when she gave Beatrice the Book of Knowledge. He wouldn't put it past the foul witch to entrust someone with it just to mess with their head. But after hearing about the past of the sanctuary from Ryuzu, he felt like the Echidna in that tale was different than the twisted person he met. The truth continued to elude him. That said, the truth wasn't important here. What he needed to do now was knock down the walls surrounding Beatrice's heart and say the magic words that would pull her toward him.
Why would you put it that way? See, as you see,
Overwhelmed by Subaru's force of will, Beatrice's voice wavered, her eyes losing focus. She firmly believed in her mother. The mother she loved and respected would never try to ensnare her on purpose. And yet, Beatrice stubbornly shook her head. When she weighed blind faith against love and respect, she chose blind faith. It was as if she wanted to continue clinging to her mother's words, which she never once doubted over the course of 400 years.
Ridge, mother, surely would never make such a mistake. Is that not obvious? I wonder this is mother we're talking about. Would you doubt your own mother's words?
Of course I would. The times I can trust her don't come along all that often. My mom's the same person who heard a report about a satellite falling into the atmosphere and somehow thought it was Aichi Prefecture. I stopped believing any news that came from her mouth after that. It'd be mega embarrassing if I spread around something that's stupid again.
It was impossible to forget how he'd been mocked by his classmates and neighbors for taking that story seriously and sharing it with everyone. To top it all off, the original culprit herself forgot she had started the whole thing, and even asked him, "Why on earth did you tell people that?" Ever since that series of events in his third year of primary school, Subaru had staunchly refused to blindly believe what either of his parents had to say about anything. In fact, he'd learned to doubt his father's words even earlier on in life. That was why Beatrice's unshakable faith in her mother as an infallible existence irked Subaru to no end.
Even if I had twice as many fingers, I wouldn't be able to count on my hands how many times an argument between my dad and me ended with a fist fight, and that's in the span of less than 20 years. You've had 20 times that. You're telling me you never had doubts like that even once?
I simply do not understand. What is it you want Betty to say? I wonder. I cannot understand at all. Your desire, your objective, they make no sense. None at all?
Fine, I'll say it straight so that even idiots like you and your mother can hear me loud and clear.
As Beatrice started clutching at her head, Subaru drew near and grasped both her hands. From above, he brought his face close to Beatrice's, coming so close that he could feel the teary-eyed girl's breaths.
Stop letting an empty book and a verbal promise you made 4 centuries ago control you. Beatrice, what you want to do is your choice. 400 years, isn't that more than enough time to justify at least one rebellious phase?
Because she loved her mother, Beatrice had stayed bound by loneliness and emptiness. Perhaps Echidna considered even her own daughter's mental anguish to be an exquisite delicacy. But what was left of a person's heart when they'd forgotten what it was like to want to cry, or even how? It made Subaru want to hurl from the bottom of his heart. With both her hands still in his grasp as she sat atop the stool, Beatrice averted her face from Subaru. Considering the height of the stool, her eyes were roughly at the same height as Subaru's. Beatrice cast her gaze downward, her lips trembling as she looked at the book on her lap.
Yo, no matter what you say, a pact is a pact. And a pact is absolute. That's why.
Big talk from a girl looking for a loophole in that same pact, ready to go straight to her death so long as that pact isn't broken in the process.
Beatrice shied away from his piercing stare until his comment made her eyes shoot wide. It seemed he had hit the mark. After having her inner thoughts laid out so plainly, a shudder ran through her as she began to tear up. That was only natural. Subaru had heard those exact laments straight from Beatrice's own mouth once before. Now, across time and space, he'd make up for how helpless he felt and for everything he had been unable to convey.
What you're saying is all messed up, Beatrice. Haven't you noticed the inconsistencies? There's no way you haven't. You got a good head on your shoulders.
Joe. Would you just be silent? I wonder.
No, I won't. You want to stop upholding the pact? That'd be fine by me. You're the one who hates keeping your promise so much that you literally want to die. No one would blame you for wanting to break it.
I would blame myself. Why can you not seem to understand this?
You're the one who doesn't understand. If keeping that promise you made means dying, you should just break the promise and live. That's what I do. Is it so weird I'd make that choice?
Beatrice, who continued obsessing over the pact, looked at Subaru like he were some kind of monster beyond all comprehension. Subaru found it pretty baffling to be perceived that way. Of course he knew keeping your word was important. He'd been scolded by Amelia more than once for breaking his promises, and he'd learned that the hard way after enduring quite a few painful experiences. That's why even someone like him had taken to heart how important it was to not go back on a promise. Despite that, Subaru didn't feel any reluctance whatsoever in telling Beatrice to break hers. He'd already explained his reasoning. It didn't even merit a second thought.
How can you be so impudent and devious, I wonder?
I know I'm the brazen sort, and I've reflected on how that's gotten me into trouble before. Still, I'll never budge on the important stuff.
Subaru's answer would not change. From the beginning, the issue at hand was Beatrice's heart. She could not conceal her shock and confusion as he told her to ignore her pact. That much was expected. In this world, pacts bore enormous weight to the beings known as spirits. He was in love with a spirit mage himself, so Subaru was well aware of the gravity of the situation. He understood completely, and even so, Subaru told Beatrice to prioritize herself over the pact.
If you were the one I've been waiting for, then maybe.
As Subaru continued to stand close by, Beatrice gazed at him, slowly shaking her head side to side. A single duty had remained entwined around Beatrice's heart, chaining her down for 400 years even as the blank pages of her mother's keepsake whittled her heart away. This mission of hers was the greatest reason she had not relinquished the pact despite all her suffering. If she only completed this duty, Beatrice could finally be free. Accordingly, Beatrice peered into Subaru's black eyes, as if clinging to them, as if giving her heart to them.
Would you? Would you?
As if out of breath, she exhaled slowly, seemingly trying to forgive herself.
Would you become that person for Betty?
This was tantamount to asking him to finally bring an end to Beatrice's 4 centuries of emptiness. He recalled Echidna's words. This was precisely the reply that the Witch of Greed desired. Given that there was no right answer as to who that person was, would Beatrice eventually select one of her own accord? This was the question the witch had entrusted to her daughter in order to satisfy her own curiosity, forcing Beatrice into 4 centuries of loneliness in the process. The question Beatrice just uttered was the fruit of all that time, the end result after 400 excruciating years. Beatrice swallowed, awaiting his reply, gazing straight back into the girl's eyes. Subaru answered loud and clear.
You really are an idiot. There's no way in hell that I be this stupid person or whatever you have been waiting for.
Subaru slammed into the wall, swooning in agony as he crumpled from the impact. After he hit his side hard on a column in the hallway, he raised a soundless cry as he writhed around on the floor.
Gag. I can't believe it. That idiot, we were still in the middle of talking.
Seeing the door slam shut right before his eyes, Subaru leaped toward it and tried to open it as fast as he could. But once he did, all he found on the other side was a simple guest room. Passage had already activated, and Subaru had been barred from the archive of forbidden books once more. The moment he forcefully announced his true feelings on the matter, Subaru had been locked out.
I had more stuff to say. Damn that short-tempered toddler.
He'd chosen his words poorly. His chest ached as he recalled how the last expressions he'd seen Beatrice make were ones of sadness and anger. He hadn't told Beatrice everything he wanted to say to her yet, if he didn't find a way back into the archive of forbidden books right away.
Mr. Natsuki.
A voice held Subaru in place just as he was about to run off in search of the archive. When he turned to check behind him, his eyes met those of someone peeking in his direction from the next room over. It was none other than Otto, who had accompanied Subaru to the mansion and should have been operating independently. And just like Otto, Petra was also sticking her head out to see what was going on. Subaru widened his eyes in surprise as realization dawned upon him.
Damn it, you guys. Why are you still in the mansion? You only needed to open the doors on the first floor, and the plan was to run as soon as that was taken care of, right?
That is true, but unfortunately, a problem has arisen within the mansion.
Though initially surprised by the unexpected reunion, Subaru's face went pale when Otto mentioned some trouble was afoot. Securing an escape route out of the mansion and using it to elude the enemy was the crux of their plan. Accordingly, Subaru had entrusted that duty to Otto. If he couldn't do it, no one could. If even Otto had deemed it too difficult, then there was no choice but to accept. It was an impossible task.
What happened? The short version, please.
This is the work of the Beastmaster you spoke of, I presume. The interior of the mansion is already filled with demon beasts.
That must mean Mealy's here, huh? But she already should have been accounted for.
Otto's hushed report left deep creases in Subaru's brow. The two assailants, Elsa the Bowel Hunter and Mealy the Beastmaster, were basically sisters of slaughter. The danger Elsa posed was painfully obvious, but Mealy's command over demon beasts was something that could not be taken lightly if they wanted to make it out of this encounter in one piece. So of course he'd readied a countermeasure.
But there are demon beasts the repel stones don't work on at all.
Even in the darkness, he could tell Petra's face was red as she shouted and beat Subaru's question to the punch. The girl was gripping a glowing blue crystal, a phosphorescent stone for warding off demon beasts. This was what Subaru and the others had prepared to neutralize the Beastmaster.
Wait, seriously. I was sure that if we had these demon beast repel stones, they'd keep them away like during the Urigorum incident. Why isn't it working?
I don't know. Perhaps the ones that appeared here are exceptions, but at any rate, assuming these demon beasts have appeared throughout the entire manor, even reaching the Marquis's room will be
Extremely difficult. Otto left this part unspoken as he finished explaining how the odds had abruptly turned against them. Then, Subaru felt an impact come from below his soles, instantly drawing his attention. He quickly noticed there was an odd warping underneath the red carpet covering the corridor floor. It bulged further, and then it burst. The tremors and deformation of the corridor had merely been a harbinger. The real show of destruction was occurring on the floor below, causing the entire west wing of the mansion to collapse, taking the corridor they were in along with it. The windows cracked, the wooden beams flew apart, and the whole mansion seemed to groan under the strain. As he lost his footing, Subaru found his body suddenly floating in midair. Reflexively, he reached out and yanked a tiny body toward him. As he fell toward the center of the hole, he tried to at least shield the small child pressed against his chest before they hit the ground.
Make sure you don't let go.
When that thunderous voice rang in his eardrums amid all the destruction, Subaru did everything he could to obey. A moment later, he felt his body being pulled by the scruff of his neck. Then he was unceremoniously tossed to the ground, which made for an admittedly much softer landing. He felt his cheek brushing up against grass. When Subaru looked around, he saw he had rolled onto the green, open yard outside the mansion.
Jew, just now, that was...
Miss Frederica.
When Subaru shook his head and looked up, Petra leaped out of his arms. Her gaze was focused on someone whose blonde hair was beautifully flapping in the wind. It was none other than Frederica herself. Petra's eyes glimmered as the older maid elegantly brushed the young girl's hair back and gently wiped the grime off her cheek.
Even if this is an emergency, please forgive my impropriety. Frederica Baumann has returned.
Frederica.
Overcome with emotion, Petra threw herself toward Frederica, who smiled as she gently caught her adorable junior and held the girl close to her chest. Consequently, Otto, who Frederica had been supporting on her right side, was unceremoniously dumped onto the grass.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm grateful you saved my life. But what is this rough handling?
I am very sorry, Master Otto. She was simply higher on my list of priorities.
Women and children, the elderly, men, and then Otto, huh?
Have I been exiled from even the ranks of men?
Setting Otto's complaints aside, their group quickly confirmed they were all unharmed. Thanks to Frederica, everyone present had emerged from the manor safely. This was not limited to Subaru, Otto, and Petra either.
Master Subaru, I have brought her here with me, as requested.
Still holding Petra, Frederica turned around to show Subaru what she meant. There, firmly secured to her back with bedsheets, was a sleeping girl, Rimin. Instantly, Subaru's breath caught in his throat. But that initial stiffness almost immediately gave way to relief.
You did thank you for getting her out safe and sound. I mean it.
It was the natural thing to do. More importantly, we have a pressing problem to deal with.
Subaru brushed a finger against Rem's cheek as she continued to sleep. While he did that, he looked intently at Frederica to convey his thanks. Then he followed her gaze to the west wing of the mansion, which was spectacularly wrecked. The sheer extent of the damage made it seem like a giant truck had crashed right into the building. To be fair, that metaphor wasn't that much of an exaggeration. The only difference was that instead of a truck,
What is that?
Otto stood up and brushed off his knees as he posed the question. It was something everyone present wondered, with the exception of the sleeping Rem. If Subaru had to guess,
It looks like a really huge hippo to me.
the creature they were staring at was enormous. The color and texture of its hide resembled a boulder, and the 4 limbs it boasted seemed as thick and stout as millstones. It had a dreadful, vile face, red eyes that brimmed with hostility, and a broken horn perched on the tip of its nose. Moreover, this demon beast had a tiny figure riding on its back.
Huh, that's amazing. I'm kinda shocked our attack just now didn't take anybody out.
Straddling the back of the enormous demon beast, the little girl waved her legs all about as she addressed them with an amused voice. The cruel, innocent ring to her words was familiar to Subaru, and to Petra as well. She was clad in black clothing, while her deep blue hair was tied up in a braid.
Mealy.
Oh, none of you folks seems to be all that surprised. I'm just a little disappointed.
When Subaru shouted her name, Mealy drew her lips back, unhappy that she'd failed to surprise them with what was supposed to be her big reveal. Unfortunately, Subaru and company had no reason to humor her.
You busting up the mansion like this is a way bigger deal. The hell you think you're doing?
Well, I couldn't find the maids who were our target, so I had Rock Piggy pitch in. And thanks to that, I ended up finding all of you, right?
Mealy touched a finger to her cheek, showing not a single shred of guilt as she sized up her prey. While it certainly had been the fastest way to draw them out, they would have all been annihilated if Frederica had not been there.
But you really surprised me. I mean, this job should have been easy. Now everything's behind schedule.
That's so. If you're off schedule, you should report to your superior and await further instructions. If you use your own on-site judgment, there's no telling what huge and terrible problems might happen.
Tee hee hee. No, you can trick me.
Despite the alien encounter and being cornered by demon beasts, Subaru carried on an exceedingly normal-sounding exchange with Mealy. Compared with Elsa, Mealy was an improvement. She didn't take potshots at his innards mid-conversation. But unsurprisingly, she was similarly immune to his attempts at persuasion. Even as they shared what seemed like a friendly chat, he could sense demon beasts gradually closing in on the yard. The group had successfully gotten out of the building, but it'd be a mistake to call it an escape. It had not changed the fact that they were surrounded by demon beasts. If anything, their situation seemed far more precarious than before.
I feel sorry for Elsa, but I'm going to take all the maids for myself. No need to worry. I'll be gentle to Petra. We are friends, after all. I'm so happy. If we're friends, that means you'll let us go, right? Tee hee hee. Of course we're friends. That's why we'll get along until the very end, right? Subaru, sorry, but I tried my best, and it still didn't work.
Their ways of expressing friendship were simply too different. Petra bravely attempted to negotiate, but that ended in failure. Mealy was still young, but she was already thoroughly versed in the ethos of a hired killer. Her moral values had already been deeply twisted. To her, evil and good were indistinguishable. They would not find any common ground.
Master Subaru,
Frederica? What are? Whoa! Who?
Suddenly, before Subaru could come up with an escape plan, the older maid stood directly in front of him with Rem still on her back. Frederica did not respond to his call and instead undid the knots, freeing Rem. Subaru instantly moved to her to catch Rem's sleeping body before it fell. And then,
I shall provide that girl, no, that assassin with the proper hospitality. During that time, all of you.
Miss Frederica, you must not.
Petra clung to Frederica, who had boldly declared she would act as a rear guard for the party. Subaru had simply gone silent. Frederica gently turned her gaze toward the young maid, who refused to let go of her waist.
Stop, Miss Frederica. This is exactly the same as before. We've only just met again, and
No, it's different now, after all. Last time, I was resigned to death. So much has changed. After 10 years, I have reunited with Garf, with my younger brother, and I have you, my unspeakably adorable junior. I have never been happier, and that's why I refuse to be defeated here.
Frederica spoke to Petra while gently stroking her head. Seeing the will residing in those jade eyes from up close, Petra said no more. But surely she understood these were not empty words to make her feel better. The woman she looked up to refused to compromise on what she believed in, and she was ready to see it through with force. Frederica was truly Garfield's elder sister.
Frederica, we'll head for Rosewall's room.
Please do. I shall join you once I have given this girl a proper spanking.
Subaru called out to her after securing Rem to his back. Offering a graceful reply in turn, Frederica readied herself for the imminent battle. Garfield versus Elsa, Frederica versus Meili. Having the beast person's siblings handle the Sisters of Subterfuge was probably the best outcome they could have hoped for. Now, they just had to survive the attack.
Otto, take Petra.
Loud and clear.
Grasping the barked instruction, Otto set off running with Petra in tow. With Rem on his back, Subaru raced ahead of them, guiding them to the entrance into the mansion from the yard.
hey, hold on. Don't decide stuff on your own like that. Petra.
Fitbit product?
The sight of Subaru and company fleeing at full speed made Meili cry out from atop the demon beast, though teary-eyed, Petra gave an immediate reply, sticking out her tongue tauntingly. With that, Subaru and the others fled into the mansion. Meili moved to pursue them, but
Dear guest, from here on, I will have to insist you remain with me and enjoy the Mathers family's hospitality.
Yeah. I'll make you regret this. Get her, Rock Piggy.
looking down at Frederica, who was blocking her path, Meili puffed up her cheeks as her temper flared. Heeding the command of its master, the enormous boulder-like demon beast issued a roar that echoed across the entire grounds. With a flutter of her skirt, Frederica's arms creaked as they transformed.
Now, come closer. I'll be teaching you some harsh lessons today. Prepare yourself.
Splitting up from Frederica, Subaru and company made a beeline for the mansion's main wing, aiming for the topmost floor.
Otto, anything to worry about from behind?
Miss Frederica is managing somehow. However, we still have no good way to deal with demon beasts.
As they raced down a corridor, Otto asserted the demon beasts were a pressing issue that remained unresolved. Subaru didn't have a new plan ready yet. What could they use against demon beasts that were immune to repel stones?
How about we use your blessing of language and your pro-bargaining skills to negotiate with the demon beasts and convince them to let us escape? You'd get all the glory.
Most demon beasts only go, me swallow you whole. That does not constitute a conversation.
This isn't the time for joking around. If we don't do something fast, Miss Frederica will.
Petra's desperate plea made Subaru and Otto cut the banter and focus their thoughts on coming up with a plan. At present, their goal was to reach Rosewall's study and the secret escape route leading outside, which was concealed behind a bookshelf in the room. That would allow them to circumvent the demon beasts surrounding the manor. However, it was inevitable that those monsters would impede them prior to their arrival.
Mr. Natsuki, there's some black-winged mice in front.
Who?
While Subaru was deep in thought, Some black shadows had flown toward him in the moonlit corridor and were already right before his eyes. These were demon beasts with round bodies, about the size of puppies, that resembled flying mice with black bat-like wings. Two of the creatures, worthy of the name black-winged mice, aimed their sharp fangs at Subaru.
Go away.
Peepra raised the rappel stone aloft, instantly driving off the black-winged mice.
You saved my bacon, Petra. But this means the stone isn't completely ineffective, doesn't it?
Against normal demon beasts, it works just fine. For the moment, it is ineffective only against a single demon beast. So long as that beast is not...
Meaning that one is...
Special, he was about to say, but two things happened before he could. The sound of an impact ringing out, followed by high-pitched death cries. From the back of the corridor, in the darkness where the moonlight did not reach, a monstrous claw flashed, drawing out screams and fresh blood simultaneously. The fearsome blow tore the wings off the black-winged mice, leaving them helplessly falling and rolling onto the carpet. Pitch-black blood coursed from their wounds as the two demon beasts convulsed. An enormous maw reached forward to snap up their bodies, chewing on them. The murderous sounds of snapping bones and bloody flesh being consumed reverberated across the corridor. Then he saw it. The creature had the head of a lion, a torso like that of a horse, a tail resembling a serpent, and a fearsome twisting horn protruding from its face. A sovereign among demon beasts, with the entirety of its being embodying the word danger. This was the demon beast that Subaru had once seen slay Petra, and its name was...
Totally forgot it, but... So we meet again, you shitty demon beast.
As if responding to Subaru venting his rage, the black demon beast raised a roar that seemed to shake the entire mansion. Bathed in a sense of awe like being buffeted in blast winds, Subaru adjusted Rem upon his back and clenched his teeth.
Otto, give that bastard a taste of the rappel stone.
No, it won't work, Subaru. That demon beast is a...
Petra shook her head side to side, her face pale as she pleaded with Subaru. Her words brought him to a sudden realization. He'd already guessed what Otto was about to shout.
A guilty row. The rappel stone will not work on it. The beast is our worst enemy right now.
Instantly, the demon beast, the Gilterau, lowered its body, aimed itself toward the group, and charged. Its claws rent the carpet. Its roar made the very foundations tremble. With a snarling battle cry, it came barreling toward them. With this, 3 battles had erupted simultaneously. The Battle of Roswell Manor had begun.
Hee, Leah. Don't wobble your head like that and sit still, would you?
Before she opened her eyes, the first thing she heard was a soft, lovely voice. Slowly, as if guided by the voice, her consciousness floated to the surface. Her vision was hazy. In the span of several blinks, she realized she was sitting in a chair, and this was her own house. It was their house, built from the hollow of a great tree in the forest. She was sitting in her own chair in the living room.
Goodness, how long are you going to be such a spoiled little child? You're really incorrigible, you know.
From so close that she could feel her breath, she heard a voice so gentle it seemed to embrace her. It caused such a stirring in her chest that the girl, Amelia, hurriedly looked over. She immediately spotted a woman with short silver hair, a foul look in her eyes, and who, to Amelia, was the ideal woman. Mom.
You turned so quickly, it surprised me. Did you doze off? Were you catching a nap while leaving me to do your hair? We truly have a lazy princess on our hands.
As Amelia's eyes went wide, her mother, Fortuna, smiled with an air of exasperation. She did not understand why she felt so deeply moved by simply seeing the sharp eyes and soft expression of her mother. Mom!
What's wrong? If something happened, you can tell me anything.
You're really dressed up today, huh, Mom? It's really cute.
Is that all? And here I was, getting worried only for you to tease me.
With just a hint of a blush, Fortuna flicked Amelia's forehead with a finger. Putting a hand on her forehead, Emilia went, "Eh," and grinned. Emilia was always proud of her mother, but she thought Fortuna looked especially beautiful that day. This was because she was actually wearing a skirt for once instead of her usual easy-to-move-in attire. Though her clothes had minimal adornment, the color-matched, fresh-looking outfit suited Fortuna very well.
Oh, look at you. Even though you have such a cute face, it's quite a mess today. You really do seem like you're still half asleep. I thought I sent you to wash your hair at the watering hole earlier. Did you just have a drink and come back?
Mom's making fun of me again. There isn't even the tiniest smidgen of carelessness in my whole body. Everyone else always says that I am really well behaved, too.
Even though you still use such ridiculous phrases, I'm really worried other people are filling your head with silly ideas. I'd better have a little chat with Archie after this.
The way she pressed her lips together seemed to indicate dissatisfaction, but the way Fortuna pressed a palm against her forehead clashed with that image. Her mother proceeded to move in front of the sullen Emilia and resumed doing her hair once more. She had long hair, silver just like Fortuna's. Her mother braided it up with practiced ease like she used magic.
Okay, now it's all nice and beautiful. Go look in the mirror.
Thanks, Mom. The mirror.
When Fortuna patted her on the shoulder, Emilia stood up with a big grin to do as she was told. The little girl proceeded to turn toward the full-length mirror, but then she stopped.
Emilia.
Fortuna called out to her daughter with a questioning voice, but Emilia did not reply. For some reason, she could not approach the full-length mirror. Even she did not know the reason why. Her legs were cramped. As Emilia stewed in melancholy, salvation came to her from a different direction. She heard the sound of someone knocking on the door to their home. Lifting her head with a gasp, Emilia went, a gasp, and whirled around, her legs hastily taking her in that direction. And then,
"Good morning to you, Lady Emilia. I am overjoyed that you came to greet me."
when she opened the door in a fair bit of a hurry, Emilia's breath caught as the tall visitor on the other side greeted her. The man, with green hair and soft features, smiled at her. Seeing the tranquil benevolence residing in this individual's eyes, Emilia could not help but break into a broad smile.
Gee, good morning to you.
Yes, it has been some time, Lady Emilia. I hope you will treat me kindly today.
Today?
Hearing words of greeting from the visiting man, Jews, made Emilia tilt her head in confusion. That curious reaction elicited an "oh my" from Hughes, who raised a curious eyebrow.
Are you not aware? I had thought we had sent word beforehand.
Shoes, don't take her seriously. Leah's just being a sleepyhead this morning.
Grr. I can't believe Mom's still saying stuff like that.
Fortuna's exasperated voice made Emilia look over, but her words caught in her throat. Fortuna was not dressed like normal, and she was holding a basket clearly meant for going out and about. Emilia could faintly smell herb-grilled meat sandwich between cuts of her mother's handmade bread. In other words,
We're going to the lake?
Why? This girl looks like she only just remembered, even though she's the one who asked to go.
Did I really? Maybe I did ask. If that's true, then I just get to be twice as happy.
when she thought back on it, she felt like she had made a request just like that. And having forgotten it, the instant she remembered made her feel like she'd gotten to enjoy it 2 times over.
Juice, what do you think of her?
It is rather in character for Lady Emilia, I believe. She specializes in doubling her happiness. Perhaps we have a thing or two to learn from her.
You spoiling her irresponsibly puts me in a bind, though. Goodness, it must be sister's blood in her.
Fortuna sighed as she touched a hand to her forehead. Then, when she noticed Hughes training his gaze firmly upon her, she gave him a sharp look as if asking, "What?"
No, it would be better not to worsen your mood.
We've known each other long enough. There's nothing you can say that will shake me now, Goose.
Then I shall speak the words. Lady Fortuna, your clothing choices this day are dazzling. I find myself rather, what?
Zero, Starting Life in Another World by Tapi Nagatsuki, casted six-tale novel. Please subscribe to our channel.
Enchanted by the sight of you.
When Gyus spoke his mind with a guileless look on his face, Fortuna stiffened for a brief moment. Then Fortuna's face turned red. An instant later, with a powerful punch to his shoulder, she sent Gyus flying. Forgotten in the commotion, the basket was in danger of falling onto the floor, but Amelia caught it just in the nick of time.
Did I truly say something rude I should not have?
No, it's not that. Mom gets embarrassed really easily, so she couldn't help but blush when you said that to her Goose. Teehee, Mom's so cute.
Don't go around making things up. Juice is. He is a man wicked to the core.
With the quarrel at home out of the way, the three amicably strolled along. Fortuna marched ahead in a huff, with Amelia and Gyus walking side by side as they headed for the lake in the forest. The incident upon their departure had Fortuna in a mood, and Gyus had gotten worked up over that, but from Amelia's point of view, Fortuna wasn't really angry. She was just shy. Amelia was a little aggravated that Gyus seemed to be the only one who wasn't picking up on that. But the relationship between Gyus and her mother was close, if a bit prickly, and certainly a happy one. Oh my, Lady Fortuna! And Amelia and Gyus, too. Good to see parent and child getting along. The housewives living close by commented and called out as they watched the trio heading down the path toward the lake. Before Fortuna could whip out a snappy retort, Gyus said,
You are obviously very loved.
And the happy smile on his face made Fortuna swallow her words.
I suppose.
Was the only reply she could muster. Then, as Fortuna inconspicuously matched her walking pace with Amelia and Gyus, Amelia quietly waved back to the housewives, whereupon the wives smiled with mischievous looks on their faces. They walked in that manner for a while until the forest abruptly fell away and their destination, the lake, came into view.
As usual, the air here is very refreshing. I feel like I'm in a better mood already.
That is because you are always carrying such weighty burdens, Lady Fortuna. You must stretch your wings once in a while. By all means, allow me to aid you in doing so.
Fortuna put her things down on the lakeshore and made a little stretch as Gyus expressed his consideration for her. When he busily set aside a place for them to sit and made preparations for the picnic, Fortuna narrowed her eyes. Then, as she gazed upon the scenery, she called out to Amelia.
Today, I'm being treated not as the leader of my people, but as an old little girl. I can't relax like this. Hey, Amelia, say something. Would. Amelia? What's wrong?
Fortuna extended a hand toward her beloved daughter, who was immobile as she stared intently, pouring her gaze into the scenery at the edge of the lake.
You've been really odd this morning. If you don't feel well, we can go home and...
Then, just as she offered a voice of concern, Amelia's tummy made a cute sound as it pleaded in hunger. Instantly, the concern on Fortuna's face crumbled. All she could do was heave a deep sigh.
Mom, I'm really hungry.
It's obvious, even if you didn't tell me and didn't show me such a tragic face. Goodness, you make people worry only for it to turn out like this. You truly are a child who keeps other people busy.
As the corners of her eyes fell with relief, Fortuna flicked Amelia's forehead, then pulled her close against her own chest. She did not crouch for this. Amelia was simply leaning forward. They were, after all, roughly the same height.
The two of you always get along so well. Watching it up close is truly enough to put a smile on my face.
Want to join in? Gyus? Don't say stupid things. Gyus, go ahead and open the basket. It's a little early, but we shall have our meal, for our princess demands it.
With that declaration, Fortuna kept holding Amelia close as they walked over to join Gyus. The basket's contents were spread atop a flat, grassy spot. Her mother was good at cooking over a fire, and this was her specialty. Food grilled with herbs was one of Amelia's favorites, as well as
I am always humbled that you would share this with me. The flavor is simply irresistible.
with a munch, and a happy-looking face. Jews stuffed his cheeks full of grilled herb food. Fortuna's cooking specialty was nothing short of a feast to him, so it was guaranteed this was what they would have every time the trio went out for a picnic.
It was undeniable. Something was stirring in her chest. Goose, if you love Mom's cooking so much, you should just live in the forest with us.
Amelia pushed that feeling back down and raised the possibility of a life together for the intimate couple. Instantly, Fortuna's face reddened.
Emilia. Dee, don't say such thoughtless things. It's very hard for Goose, too. He has to thread his way through a busy schedule just to poke his head over here at all.
I am greatly pleased to hear you say this, Lady Amelia. Were it only possible, I, too, desire this from the bottom of my heart.
The nervousness on her mother's face was in stark contrast to Goose's calm demeanor. But the echo of Goose's words, were it only possible, left Amelia dissatisfied.
If you want to do it, then just do it, not because it's possible. If neither of you has a problem with it, besides, no one's going to get in the way, or am I in the way?
Not at all.
That is not so.
She voiced the concern that her being there was the reason the amiable pair could not be with each other. And since Fortuna and Jews both denied it was so, she blurted out her next words without thinking.
You two sure get along really nicely.
Oh, there you go again. Juice, say something. Would you?
Yes, you mustn't, Lady Amelia. Lady Fortuna is someone with a very important duty. If one such as myself remains for too long, ill rumors shall arise and cause her trouble.
Rumors of Mom and Goose. I feel like it's too late to stop those
Goose's poor defense made Amelia put a finger to her lips as she replied. Goose looked like he had no idea to what she was referring.
I mean, the aunties near home said we look like a happy family that gets along really well.
I was quite certain this was referring to Lady Amelia and Lady Fortuna only.
I expect nothing less from you, Juice, but Mom understands, right?
Amelia's assertion made Fortuna avert her eyes with a red face. Even Amelia could see right through her mother. Surely Goose felt the exact same way.
I think it's a really good idea. I do. So both of you think about it, okay? No one in the forest, including me, thinks there's anything weird about it. And I absolutely won't stand for it if anyone says anything bad.
With some half-eaten grilled herb food in hand, Amelia realized she'd become rather worked up about this. Even so, she'd wanted to say it. She had to say it. She didn't want Fortuna and Goose to be afraid of being happy together. She wanted them to be happy. Stuffing her cheeks with the remaining half of the grilled herb food, she chewed it down, swallowed, brushed her knees and stood up.
I've said what I wanted to say. I leave everything else to the young couple. Go right ahead.
Emilia, truly, where did you learn of such things?
When Amelia spoke those words with her hands on her hips, Fortuna wore her familiar exasperated look. However, that expression immediately fell away, changing into a smile she could not hold back.
Tee-hee. Ah ha ha. Oh, Emilia, truly, you are a really cute girl.
Ha ha! Lady Amelia has, I see. She has grown up sound and well. Truly, a joyful thing.
Well, of course she has. She's my daughter, my pride and joy. It goes without saying.
Yes, so I see.
Watching the two laughing and looking at each other's smiling faces filled Amelia's chest with a palpable sense of warmth. From the bottom of her heart, she wanted to gaze at the scene for a long time, immersing herself in it. Probably because there was no greater happiness than this.
Emilia?
When Fortuna suddenly called out to her, Amelia hurriedly covered her face with her hands. She belatedly realized she'd spontaneously broken into tears.
Ah, I might have gotten a speck of dust in my eye. A really big speck of dust.
That big? Are you all right?
I'm fine. I'm in completely tip-top shape. As much as that rock over there.
That enormous boulder? Are you truly all right?
I said I'm fine.
Responding to the concerned pair, Amelia rubbed her eyes as she turned to face the lake.
I'm going to wash my eyes out a bit. After, I think I'll go around the lake once.
Make sure you don't drop your eyeballs by mistake. They're such a pretty color, pretty violet eyes, just like brothers.
Well, Mom's eyes are just as pretty.
Perhaps Fortuna never considered that, for Amelia's reply took her completely by surprise. Seeing that the unusual side of hers made Goose laugh, Amelia laughed as well. She kept laughing as she advanced toward the lake. Then she glanced back, looking at Fortuna and Goose.
Get along nicely and wait, okay? And always, always really, get along.
Yes, you worry, Wart, but don't make us wait too long. That would put me in a serious bind.
No, there is no need to hurry. Take your time. We shall wait for as long as is required, Lady Amelia.
With the smiling pair, with her parents seeing her off, Amelia took a deep breath. Then, unable to hold it in any longer, she turned around, looked straight at the two of them, and parted her lips once more.
I love you both.
From a plateau with a view of the entire lake, Amelia stood, gently caressed by the wind. She was closely watching the intimate couple on the distant shore at the other end of the lake with her violet eyes, which her mother always praised so much. Ju said something without realizing the impact of his words. Fortuna went red in the face as she refuted him. Amelia pursed her lips as she watched the lightly amusing scenes. And then,
Amelia, isn't it dangerous for you to be here all by yourself?
hearing a familiar voice call out to her from behind, Amelia looked back. She was standing atop a sheer cliff with the lake spread out below it. Facing her was a handsome young man with golden hair and green eyes, Archie Alar, one of the elves living with them in the Great Eller Forest, and, to Amelia, practically her own brother.
Archie,
Somehow your voice and face seem different, Amelia. Did you leave your usual head in the clouds, Ness off by the wayside? You're starting to worry me.
that's a terrible thing to say. Stupid Archie, I don't know you. Go away.
Sorry. If you're seriously worried about something, then I'll seriously hear you out, all right?
Faced with Amelia's sullenness, Archie flashed a pained smile as he raised both hands in surrender and walked in her direction. Then he stood alongside Amelia upon the cliff.
What's wrong? Today Lord Archbishop was supposed to come to the forest, yes? Weren't you with... isn't that him over there? Did you give them some time alone by any chance?
That's right. What do you think of them, Archie?
I think they're a good match. Everyone in the forest thinks so too. Lady Fortuna is so strict with herself, even though we would prefer it if she thought of her own happiness more.
As he shared those thoughts, Archie reeled in shock, for he had caught sight of Amelia's wet eyes and the tears ready to spill out from them.
Amelia, it's all right. Even if Lady Fortuna and Lord Archbishop were joined together, they would never forsake you.
It's not that stupid.
Not that, huh? Then, how about this? Certainly, it might be difficult right now, and I do not know how many years must pass in the meantime, but someday both of them will...
Time.
As Archie hurriedly tried to comfort her, Amelia lifted her head, lips quivering. If they'd had time, the distance between Fortuna and Goose would have narrowed. To be blunt, the current speed of progress seemed no faster than a snail's pace, but eventually the day would surely come when they would be together. When that day came, everyone in the forest would celebrate. Of course, Amelia would celebrate most of all, and if possible, she wanted not only the people of the forest, but the people of the entire world to celebrate the couple. That would be a world of peace, of tranquility, of freedom in all things, where everyone could smile together.
But that world doesn't exist.
Lowering her eyes rimmed with long eyelashes, Amelia touched her hair ornament as she murmured, the floral hair ornament she had inherited from her mother, of which two should not exist in that world. Her mother, all dressed up and waiting for her on the lakeshore, wore the very same hair ornament. In other words, this was a place apart from the forest that had already met its snowy end, an unknowable idealized future.
Looking at this unknowable present, have you not thought, I want to live here?
Archie,
Here, I, Lady Fortuna, Lord Archbishop, and everyone else are living safe and sound. No tragedy will ever befall this place. It is a happy world. Emilia, you could have a good life here too, free of worry and hurt.
To Amelia, who had realized this was a false world, Archie raised a gentle plea for her not to make such a sad face. That he found nothing suspect with his own theory was proof itself that this world was a sham. It would have been a lie to claim his plea. Archie's plea didn't sway her heart.
Surely you want the two of them to be happy. Surely you want to live here to see it. After all, this is your ideal present, the future you yourself desired.
The future that Yes, I think you're right. I'm sure you are.
She wanted Fortuna to be happy. She wanted Ghost to make her mother happy. If only everyone in the forest could smile together, if only she could get along nicely with Archie, to always be in such a world of happiness. If only she could pretend not to know, to somehow forget her mother's tragic demise and Goose's unspeakable grief.
Lady Fortuna has already passed away. Lord Archbishop's well-being or lack thereof is unknown. Everyone in the forest has been turned to statues of ice.
Yeah.
Our homeland has been frozen over, blocked off to all outsiders, and now you have even parted ways with the spirit who was like family to you.
Amelia closed her eyes as she digested the words Archie was speaking to her. It would have been easier for her if that voice reproached her. It would have been easier if it had blamed her for her errors in judgment, berating her for her poor thinking, to insult her for her shameful lack of gratitude. But Archie had puffed out his chest and said he would do no such thing. What infused his voice was not anger. Instead,
Even though you could be happy here, even though you wanted this world, you poor thing.
all he wanted was for Amelia to be happy, to be at peace. It was exactly as he'd said. This was a world that existed for no reason other than to make Amelia happy.
Sorry, Archie.
Why do you desire a future that will hurt you so much?
I don't want to be hurt. I'm searching for a future where I don't have to be hurt, where I don't have to run, hide, or push things away, where I can hold hands with others.
And the wounds you suffer, the pain, what you have lost will never return. Will you search for such a thing even so?
Even Amelia had thought of what it would be like to have no one think of her as detestable. Many times over, she'd wanted to cast all the pain and suffering by the wayside. The earnestness in Archie's words gently and deeply touched upon scars that covered Amelia's weak heart.
I want people to think I look cool.
Amelia?
Doubt crept into his voice. Archie seemed like he did not believe his own ears. Amelia lifted her head, staring straight at her kin, at the man who was practically a brother to her, and spoke with the determination she felt.
I want to be like Mom, who I look up to so much. I want to be gentle and strong, like Goose. I want to be like Granny Tansy and the others, who were never mean to me even once. I want to be like Archie, who smiled to the very, very end so that I wouldn't get scared. I want to be like Puck, who kept protecting me so I wouldn't be alone. I want to be like Ram, who wants to work harder than anyone else for the person she holds dearest. I want to be like Otto, doing his utmost for the sake of his friend. I want to be like Garfield, who refuses to speak one timid word or complaint.
Amelia?
And I want to be like Subaru, who suffers and gets all beat up, who's always reckless, who told me he loves me.
Amelia was weak and pathetic and always failing. But even so, she wanted to do everything she could for the people she wanted to be with, for the people inside and outside the forest, for those who once walked alongside her, and for those who would stand by her from now on.
I want those people to think I look cool. I want to reach my hand out to the others, the way so many people assured me that things would be all right.
It was time for the girl who had always been saved by others to start saving them. The boy who always endured so much for Amelia's sake had put his trust in her, promising that everything would turn out all right in the end. That was why Amelia would live in the outside world.
I'm all right. I'm not afraid of the outside world. I'm not afraid of the future. Thank you for worrying about me. I'm all right, big brother.
Being called that made Archie open his eyes wide. Amelia smiled, seeing his surprised face. She'd always thought of him as a brother, but shyness in her defiant heart had kept her from calling him that even once. But now there was no reason to be embarrassed by those sunny feelings. She could boldly say what she had always felt. In Amelia's forest homeland, she had a mother, a father, and an older brother. She had a family. You? Faced with Amelia's charming smile, Archie kept trying to say something, but the flood of complicated and mystifying emotions within him dissipated without taking any definite shape. After all,
Amelia, you're so stubborn. Once you've decided on something, you never listen to anyone. I wonder if you have any idea how hard that was on Lady Fortuna and the rest of us.
Wow. I'm really sorry about that.
It's fine. I mean,
then Archie's words trailed off as he smiled. His face contained not worry, but a beaming smile.
it's an older brother's place to indulge his little sister's selfish ways.
The way he spoke with a smile on his face made Amelia truly feel the depth of his love. Just how many times had she been protected, and just how much love and tranquility had she received?
Thank you, big brother.
All of Amelia's and Archie's feelings were encapsulated in the smiles they exchanged. Then she turned her back to him, standing atop the cliff once more. From that vantage point, she could see Fortuna and Jews in the distance, as well as the surface of the lake immediately beneath her. Suddenly, the two noticed Amelia in the distance and waved to her. She waved back, burning the sight of them happily together into her eyes. Her mind, her soul, and her memories. She left it all behind.
Thank you for showing me this world, Echidna.
She was speaking to Archie, standing behind. No, this was not Archie. She spoke to Echidna the witch, including Archie, who was aware of far too many details that he should have never known. This entire world was an illusory space to begin with. Remembering the trial, Amelia understood this was not reality. Perhaps the mother, father, older brother, and everyone else she saw here were all nothing but fabrications. Even if that was true, Amelia still felt gratitude in her chest.
Maybe this is a world that could never exist, but I never thought I'd see the day that Mom and Dad could be together like this, smiling side by side. So thank you.
It scared her to acknowledge this as an unreal, fleeting dream. However, even if it was a world that would never come to pass, Amelia had gotten a chance to see the happiness that had been possible. In this world, she had felt joy, love, and a happy sadness that sent shivers through her whole body. She was glad from the bottom of her heart that she got the opportunity to bear witness to everything she had seen here.
You.
Responding to Amelia's words of thanks, Archie, no, the voice was feminine. It was the voice of the witch. Amelia's memory of being hated by her during the course of the first trial was still fresh. She'd half given up on hearing her voice in that world, let alone seeing her face. But there, the witch appeared in that transient world at the very, very end, and her voice trembled.
Echidna.
Turning around, Amelia faced the witch head-on. That same moment, Amelia wished she hadn't. When she turned around, there stood Echidna, her expression so raw, it made Amelia regret seeing it. For Echidna was simply standing there, staring at Amelia with a face ready to break into tears.
I hate you. I just hate you.
Amelia didn't comment on the hesitation she detected in the words Echidna wrung out. Then, right before Amelia's eyes, Echidna's body became hazy, like a ripple moving along the water's surface. Her existence became distorted, and the witch's form seemed to melt as she retreated from the world of illusion. There was nothing left behind, With the one who had supposedly been Archie gone, wind and time began to flow once more.
Echidna, having instilled such bitterness that she had wanted to say nothing, I clenched my own chest with my hand.
From there, I put my breathing in order. Then I turned back toward the cliff, one more time, peering into the water below. I saw my reflection on the distant surface of the clear, shallow lake. My heartbeats grew stronger, faster. Simultaneously, I instinctively understood how to bring the second trial to an end. Between this world and the one I really belonged to, what part was different yet the same? The only answer was Amelia herself. I was the only foreign element in either world. The way to end the trial was for me to find myself and seek out a way to acknowledge, accept, and understand that self. My memories of the past ended when my homeland froze over and I fell into a deep slumber. Until the present day, over a century had passed, and in all that time, I had never once set eyes upon my grown-up self. The reason was simple. I was simply afraid. I was too afraid to look. When I awoke, the aging my body had undergone conflicted with the memories I had lost. My clumsy, unfamiliar body terrified my immature heart, and the way the people living close to the forest treated me drove that fear deeper still. Her features inevitably drew comparisons to the witch of jealousy, and I spent that time in misfortune. This made people uneasy, so they persecuted me, causing me to harbor even greater fear than before. I deliberately avoided mirrors, and I'd trained myself to not even look at the reflective surface of water. As part of my contract with Puck, he picked how I would groom myself each day. Normally, he hid everything under his aloof, frivolous demeanor, but this too was actually all to protect my fragile heart from reopening old wounds.
Truly, just how much have people been protecting me? How much had I failed to notice while I'd been sulking all on my own? The time I'd spent ignoring the love others gave me had finally come to an end.
With resolve in her heart, Amelia closed her eyes, and moments later her feet left the ground. In an instant, gravity dragged her floating body downward, pulling her into a fall upside down. The rushing wind entwined her long silver hair around her body. Her figure was perfectly straight as she plunged head first, hurtling toward the water below. She felt goosebumps on her skin. Sensing the surface of the water was close by, Amelia opened her eyes. It was just in time for her to drink in the sight of the silver-haired, violet-eyed girl reflected by the clear lake's surface. It was as if she was resolved to greet the end of the world head-on. Then, quietly, she widened her eyes further.
Huh?
A disappointed voice trickled out. Her face reflected in the water, the face of the little girl who had grown so big, drew nearer and nearer with every passing moment. Amelia let out a soft sigh and muttered,
That's too bad. I look less like Mom than I thought.
An instant after that sulky murmur, Amelia crashed into the watery mirror. She would never let go of the happiness she found. However, the world of dreams from which she had to depart had finally come to an end. Neither the cold nor the impact of breaking the water's surface receded when Amelia's mind returned to reality. When she came to, the first thing she saw was the small, cold room in the dimly lit tomb. Lying upon her side, Amelia blinked again and again, thinking back to the trial that had ended a moment before. Perhaps it had been an illusion. The scene was one that could have existed, and that fact made her chest throb.
My feelings for Mom, for Dad, for Big Brother, and everyone else I hold dear, those haven't changed. If anything, my feelings for them have only deepened and grown stronger. I kept these emotions stored away in my heart, and I would carry them with me forevermore. My resolve had crystallized. Both of Echidna's trials had given me something precious. The words of thanks I offered the witch were not false in any way. With this, the second trial is over. That's good, right?
As she rose to her feet, Amelia set aside her questions about Echidna's final actions for later. There was a tangible sense of accomplishment, and judging from the look of the witch as she departed, it was no mistake to think the second trial had indeed ended. She had not so much overcome it as she had seen things through to the end. Even with the sight of her father and mother, an illusory emotional scene she'd supposedly put behind her. Tugging at the back of her mind, Amelia turned her back to the room, heading outside the tomb to prepare to challenge the third trial. Just as it had been for the second trial, exiting and re-entering the tomb was no doubt a condition for switching to the next trial to come. Even were that not the case, she had to inform Ram, who was waiting outside for her success or failure in the trial, and put her worries at ease. Save him. That was the plea Ram had stated to Amelia when the strong girl had shown her what lay deep within her heart. Amelia wanted to respond and act upon that from the bottom of her heart, and for that sake,
Sorry to keep you waiting, Ram. Huh?
accompanied by that powerful resolve, Amelia tried to convey the results of the latest stage of the trials, but she ended up cocking her head instead. Under a night sky with the silver moon high above, waiting for Amelia at the entrance to the tomb was not a lone maid, but a great throng of people. Ah, she's come out. Someone noticed the surprised Amelia and raised a cry. Instantly, the crowd shifted their gazes toward her as one, and the sheer force of it made Amelia wince. But she recognized them instantly. There stood the people of Earlham Village who had evacuated to the sanctuary and taken shelter at the cathedral. Their return to their homes had been delayed, now hinging on the lifting of the sanctuary's barrier. It was none other than Amelia who had promised she would definitely free them. Still unable to make good on her promise just yet, Amelia held her breath. She fully expected them to accuse her of being all talk and no substance. And yet,
It's good you are safe and sound. Were you hurt at all? Simply going in there, put our Lord at death's door.
the first words she heard were filled with nothing but reverence for Amelia, which made her brain seize up. However, Amelia immediately shook her head to clear it, and then from the stairs, she deeply bowed toward them. For an instant, the people murmured, but they immediately fell silent as they awaited Amelia's words.
Look, thank you for worrying about me. I am completely fine and not hurt whatsoever.
Oh, I'm so glad. Good, that's what's important. That's what's important. Master Subaru got all worried for nothing, huh?
It's just, I am very sorry. I still have not completed all the required trials, but everyone here must have already heard from Subaru and the others, right? There is no longer any reason for you to remain in the sanctuary. I will definitely lift the barrier, but it would be best for all of you to return to your families.
As part of the negotiations, the villagers were originally supposed to remain in the sanctuary until its barrier was lifted. But now that Garfield had rescinded his previous demands, there was not a single reason for them to remain. The villagers already knew that. Amelia had heard from Ram that Subaru and company explained it to them prior to leaving for the mansion. Therefore, there was no reason for them to await Amelia's success or failure in the trials. However,
Master Subaru? Hey, what did he tell us anyway? Oh, I wonder. Lately, I have been quite forgetful. I simply can't recall. Goodness, the way you said that seemed so real that it honestly scared me for a minute. Well, not that it isn't true.
looking at one another's faces, the villagers began exchanging unbelievable words. It was not simply one or two people either. Every last person had joined in on the act, pretending like they had no idea what Amelia was talking about. Naturally, Amelia was agape at such transparent behavior. They were all clearly playing dumb, acting as if this was the first they'd heard of it. As for the reason why, Amelia just couldn't understand.
And so, Lady Amelia, we will wait here as promised. We cannot return to the village until Lady Amelia has lifted the barrier. We're not budging from that one bit.
The old woman with a stooped hip who served as head of Earlham Village spoke those words with a smiling face. Amelia drew in her breath. By this point, even someone as slow on the uptake as Amelia could understand what their intention was. All of them were waiting for her to fulfill her promise. No doubt they wanted to return to their families without a moment to spare, but they were suppressing that urge in order to honor their promise to her. That was because Amelia had sworn to do the same for these very people.
Besides, we are not the only ones expecting much from Lady Amelia's efforts.
As Amelia, deeply moved by the unexpected turn of events, felt her chest grow hot, the elderly woman made a mischievous smile as she nodded. When Amelia looked over, drawn by the gesture, the people of Earlham Village were all lined up, and behind them, with the swaying of the thickets, she saw even more people entering the clearing. Somehow, the group seemed to be walking hesitantly, and at their head stood a girl with long pink hair, a black robe draped over her, and a staff in hand.
Miss Ryuzu and the people of the sanctuary? From the looks of things, it would seem that you have returned after completing the second trial.
Lining up beside the head of Earlham Village, Ryuzu sighed as if to say, "We made it in time." Everyone present gathered together into two groups, dividing the open ground up between them. Amelia, who had a view of the whole scene from her vantage point atop the stairs of the tomb, was deeply moved, letting out an ah.
There were this many people living in the sanctuary?
She'd heard there were maybe 50 Earlham Village evacuees who had taken shelter here. The residents of the sanctuary and the clearing numbered just as many, about as much as a very large family, bringing the total number of souls gathered in this place to about 100. Yet despite that, in all the time Amelia had spent here, she had practically never come face to face with any sanctuary residents beyond Ryuzu and Garfield, let alone spoken to any of them.
Please know that is no fault of yours, Lady Amelia. It was the residents' will, really. It was my own stubbornness that prevented me from allowing you to meet the residents.
Miss Ryuzu?
Lady Amelia, you have done well to have overcome the trial. We are grateful for this, and
Bowing her head deeply, Ryuzu had said exactly what Amelia had guessed she would. Then Ryuzu glanced at the elderly woman standing beside her.
after hearing from young Gar and the villagers here, listening to both the residents of this place and outsiders alike, I too have finally been able to rouse these old bones. I suppose you might fault me as an opportunist.
I am not one to talk about anyone having doubts and being stuck in place. I spent about 100 years dozing off after all.
Still, our obstinacy has lasted generation after generation after generation across 4 centuries, so I will call us even.
Unable to bear the sight of that downcast face, Amelia offered some joking words which seemed to help Ryuzu relax. She was acting like Subaru. This was how he usually lightened the mood during weighty occasions.
I understand what Garfield probably spoke about, but was everyone else able to hold discussions with the people of the sanctuary as well?
Nothing quite so grand. Just living in the same place naturally leads people to build relationships. We elderly often have spare time to exchange words while doing the cooking and the laundry.
And so we elderly with too much time on our hands spoke about various things. I have long lived in the sanctuary, yet I have never had a chance to exchange words with an outsider quite like this.
Musing out loud, Ryuzu and the Earlham Village head turned to each other, wearing little smiles. Externally, they didn't look even remotely the same age. But to Amelia's eyes, it seemed like an exchange between old friends. And Amelia thought this was a powerful, deep, and most precious thing.
Lady Amelia, may we have a few words with you?
Yes.
Then someone raised their hand and stepped forward. He was a resident from the sanctuary, a man with a head full of bestial hair and ever so slightly canine teeth. As someone who lived here, he was undoubtedly a half-blood himself. The man, whose age she would put at 30 thereabouts, bowed his head with a rather tense expression on his face.
To be honest, we still haven't decided in our hearts. We aren't sure whether to trust you or not. We who know nothing about the outside world can't help but be scared of leaving the sanctuary. That goes for me too. I was born and raised here.
Just as Garfield had asserted, this was the sanctuary in its present state. Many of the people dwelling here had undergone persecution for having blood that differed from both humans and demi-humans, causing them to seek this land as a place where they could find some peace. Others were born here, spent their entire lives in this place, and then returned to the soil. That was the way of life that had continued since the establishment of the sanctuary 4 centuries prior. Lifting the barrier meant losing something that they had always taken for granted. How much did this mean to them? In terms of taking something for granted, Puck had been the closest comparison Amelia had. To Amelia, his sudden departure was the last thing she wanted. It was only natural that the residents of the sanctuary were just as reluctant to have such a thing imposed on them by others.
If Master Rosewall is looking after us even on the outside, how would that be any different from us living here? I'd always thought maybe we don't need to change.
Yeah.
However,
Lowering her eyes, Amelia took in the man's words. She awaited more with a gloomy heart. When she looked back, the man had stretched and straightened his back, his tense cheeks hardening as he continued.
However, all of us heard that little kid's angry voice. We know exactly how that hardworking kid feels, and it makes me feel pathetic.
When his face grew tearful and his gaze turned rueful and reproachful of himself, Amelia's chest tightened.
He's still a child of 14. How many years has he spent stuck in his ways like that? He's a good kid. And you are too, Lady Amelia.
I'm not, until tonight. I was a totally good-for-nothing girl.
It wasn't like she'd accomplished anything. Not yet. Though Amelia denied she had anything to be proud of, the man said, even so, shaking his head.
Master Roswal told us it was futile, and everyone was afraid, cowering from the trial. But even so, here you stand. You entered the tomb and you came out. That's why...
Yes.
Whatever happens in the end, what you are trying to do is already incredible and worthy of praise. I won't go so far as to say every last person here shares those feelings, and even I can't say I'm completely on your side just yet. But please allow us to watch over you to the end.
Amelia was silent as she received the man's. No, it was not the man alone, but the gazes from all the various people behind him were trained upon her. Receiving these, Amelia stood straight and strong.
I understand. I'm certain I will see this through. When that time comes, we can speak properly.
Yes, it's a promise. Actually, for me and the rest, to be shunning anyone based on their looks and position without even talking ain't exactly the best. Why?
As the man deeply bowed, something sent him leaping into the air. When Amelia looked harder, the cause was Ryuzu, who was standing beside him and had suddenly dug her nails into his side. The man gave an objecting look as Ryuzu laughed at the top of her lungs.
Too long, too serious, and midway through, you switched from us to me. Shame on you, shame.
I'm very sorry, Elder.
Either way, our current point of view is as he said just now. This too, what is the matter?
Ryuzu was in the midst of lightly teasing the man when the wide-eyed Amelia tilted her head.
Miss Ryuzu, it's a little surprising to hear someone call you elder like that. And I was thinking, wow, I really haven't seen her speaking with anyone except Garfield, have I?
Think about that, went Amelia, sticking her tongue out. Ryuzu, taken aback, looked at the man's face, and he, hers. From there, they let up voices of "Kwa-ha-ha-ha" and laughed. The laugh was not merely between Ryuzu and the man. It spread to the various people of the sanctuary and even the residents of Earlham Village. For a time, the entire clearing was filled with laughter.
Somehow, it doesn't seem quite right to laugh, but, Miss Ryuzu, thank you. Also, Miss Mildy, it seems like you really put some work into this.
Lady Amelia, you remembered my name?
As Amelia spoke words of thanks, the elderly woman beside Ryuzu, Milda Earlham, made a surprised face. Seeing this, Amelia went and puffed out her chest.
I may not look like it, but I am in the middle of studying to become king. Remembering names is the least I can do.
I do not believe a king needs to remember the name of each and every subject, but...
You've probably been dealing with kings with poor memory. I'm very good at learning things.
Hearing Amelia's reply, Milda slightly narrowed her eyes. Then she offered a deep bow. Glancing sidelong at this, Ryuzu went, "Now then," indicating the tomb with her chin.
Lady Amelia, I am pleased that we could be of service to you. Next is the final trial, but... Yes, I intend to challenge it immediately. Well, I was intending to... Miss Ryuzu, do you know where Ram is?
The impact of being greeted by such a large throng the instant she exited the tomb temporarily forced it from her mind. But as far as her eyes could see, Ram was nowhere to be found. Amelia had wanted to inform the girl who'd motivated her to break through the trial that she had finally found some success. But
Ram is attending to a duty she cannot afford to shirk. She left a message, praying for your good fortune. She said, Lady Amelia must do what only she can do, and Ram must do the same. Let us do our very best.
Ryuzu mimicked Ram's way of speaking, drawing a strained smile onto Amelia's face. It was just like her to say something like that. Ram's duty was no doubt connected to the feelings that she had conveyed in her request to Amelia. And when she thought how Ram might fulfill that duty, there was a slight throbbing in her chest. Pushing that feeling down, Amelia chose to trust Ram, just as Ram had chosen to trust Amelia.
I have to say, though no one waited for me to come back at all. Not Subaru, not Ram. Oh ho, I see how that would sour your mood. It is a pity those you care deeply for are not present. If this pitiful old face is good enough for you, I'll wait right here until you return again. Okay, I guess it's time.
Amelia had begun to pout, but after hearing Ryuzu's response, she smiled and then turned. Right before her, the entrance to the tomb awaited. She entered without any hesitation.
Well, I'm off.
Various voices from the residents of the sanctuary and Earlham village alike called out after her. There were so many expectations pushing her forward, more than the first time and more than the second. Carrying these alongside the powerful resolve now residing within her, she walked toward the back of the tomb. And then, faced the calamity that shall come. The third trial came. The third trial came. Chapter 3, Giltyro, Black King of the Forest, strikes. Gah!
Marvelous, 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 marvelous.
Flipping her body around like she was dancing, she aimed a curved blade at his vitals with no fixed path, flashing from up, down, right, and left. It almost seemed like some sort of extreme training, but every blow landed without any warning, infused with enough power to instantly end his life. The tip of the bent blade rent the air, surpassing sound as it swung with godlike speed. The seemingly supernatural, murderous technique was being countered by Garfield's own superhuman skill. Using the silver-colored shields attached to both arms, he chose to deflect rather than block the incoming blade. He kept redirecting the force of the woman's attack skyward, creating openings for counterattacks so he stood a chance at reeling in victory by force. Even that very moment, he guided a powerful blow aimed at his neck off to the side before sending a kick straight into the woman's torso. Had Garfield's kick connected cleanly, it would have undoubtedly ruptured all her internal organs. But
I've already seen that one.
the woman's eyesight was truly frightening, surpassing all common sense. Her whisper was not a joke or a taunt either. Every technique she witnessed in battle did not work a second time. Having already foreseen this second straight kick, the woman avoided it with minimal movement as she lined up her next attack. A backward slash with her blade. That blow, apparently intended to serve as punishment for foolishly resorting to the same technique a second time while fighting a powerful foe, hit its mark. In that same instant, Garfield's foolish kick slammed right into the woman's face. She bit down to suppress the groan of pain that threatened to escape from the back of her throat. Her knife had entered his right foot, carving his flesh all the way up to his femur. If he'd been even slightly slower, she would have no doubt sliced off the entire leg. But for that price, Garfield had landed a clean blow on the woman. In the battle up to that point, Garfield had grown to admire and trust the skill of Elsa, his foe. The excellence of her technique, her overwhelming combat intuition, the physical abilities she'd honed, and the impossibly fine control over her own body, few could claim to be as strong as this woman. He was certain that if he showed her the same technique twice, she'd definitely see right through it. It was this absolute trust in her ability that allowed Garfield to land a direct hit on her. He was sure he'd torn the woman's sultry face. Even if it did not end her life, it would leave her gravely wounded and unable to continue combat. But Garfield did not let his guard down. After all,
Ah, that hurt, and quite a bit. Makes me appreciate being alive.
Damn it! This ain't no joke! What is that body of yours made out of?
as Garfield sighed, Elsa let out a heated breath of excitement. She was touching her left hand to her face as if to suppress the bleeding, and when she slowly lowered it, Anyone watching would have expected a wound underneath terrible enough to make the faint of heart avert their eyes. But it was not so. When she removed her left hand, Elsa revealed her face didn't even have a scratch, let alone any bleeding.
The general called ya a woman who wouldn't die even if one killed her, but this is just messed up.
I suppose it is. Even I feel slightly apologetic about my physical nature. It seems to be robbing everything you do of all meaning. I wonder, do you hate women like me?
Hearing how disconcerted Garfield was made Elsa slightly incline her head. The tone of the question made Garfield abruptly furrow his brows. It was slight, minute, but he felt some part of Elsa's tone of voice was filled with sadness.
Even as I move about, my wounds heal, and I feel neither pain nor fatigue, allowing me to continue fighting without limit. Do you feel fighting such a woman lacks any meaning? I wonder, do you really think of me as someone you can test the results of your training against?
Hell if I care.
The throwaway tone of Garfield's voice made Elsa widen her eyes in apparent surprise. She blinked hard, which momentarily made her seem much younger. Garfield crinkled his nose as he spoke again.
You're my enemy. And me, I'm the super strongest shield who's been assigned the toughest enemy. I got the general and the woman I fell for expecting a lot from me. I ain't giving up from a little setback like this. I'm gonna blow you away, Elsa Gramhilda. Don't matter how many times ya come back.
Baring his fangs and keeping his legs wide apart, Garfield adopted a fighting stance as he howled. Garfield's caustic words left Elsa silent for a time. She let her refined eyelashes fall just a tiny bit as she touched a hand to her own mouth. He heard a laughing voice.
Huh? The hell are you laughing at?
I am quite sorry. I heard some unexpected words, so I could not help but find them amusing. Yes, you seem to be a very good boy.
Don't treat me like some little kid. Me, I'm a fine man. A grown male.
Oh, really now? You hardly look fully developed to me, either as an adult or a man.
As Elsa relaxed her cheeks, her ridicule drew a sour snort out of Garfield. Garfield couldn't read Elsa's emotions. To be blunt, he wasn't interested in them. That moment, what was important to him was fulfilling his role by beating the opponent before his eyes to a pulp. In so doing, he would prove the Sanctuary's mightiest shield could fulfill that role even in the outside world.
You truly are marvelous, but that makes this more the pity.
The hell you talking about?
Right now, your attention is directed toward me and nothing else. I wonder, how are your older sister and the others faring? You've been wondering the whole time, haven't you?
Elsa's comment concerned Frederica as well as Subaru and Otto as they scurried across the mansion. She wasn't wrong. Certainly, Garfield was worried for his friends. He could not deny that they'd remained in the corner of his mind throughout the fight.
I wonder if the cause of your fear was cut away. Would you look at me and only me? In any case, your friends cannot escape from this mansion. You've realized this too, haven't you?
Seems like there are demon beasts crawling all over this place. The work of your little helper, huh?
My little sister. So long as her perimeter is intact, there is no way to escape. She worked hard and brought an entire horde of demon beasts. At this point, everyone could very well have been eaten down to the last morsel.
The entirety of Roswell Manor was buried in disgusting scents and auras. He'd heard beforehand of the existence of a beastmaster who controlled demon beasts. Subaru and company must have tried using that repel crystal for barriers as a countermeasure. But the beasts still remained in the mansion that very moment. He knew from the faint tremors reaching his eardrums and what he could pick up from their auras. In other words, some kind of unforeseen problem had arisen. It no doubt had something to do with Elsa's little sister, the beastmaster he had yet to personally lay eyes on. The more he thought about it, the deeper he sank into worry.
Really, you want to rush over to your friends this very moment, don't you?
Not that I let you, but if the nervousness is dulling your fangs, that is very, very disappointing.
Garfield, too, understood a warrior's desire to battle an enemy at their finest, but Elsa was different. She thought like a huntress, using every power at her disposal to take down her prey. Considering her way of thinking, she probably thought the current situation put Garfield at a disadvantage. But that was completely off the mark.
Don't get the wrong idea, lady.
Am I wrong?
You just don't get it. Demon beasts are wandering around, yeah? And what, you think I gotta go save them or something? Stupid crap like that ain't gonna stop the general.
Supposedly unable to fight at full strength out of worry for his friends, seethed with an uncontainable heat that blazed within him. He boldly stepped forward, baring his fangs as he closed the distance between him and Elsa.
The general and his crew are the ones who gave me a royal poundin'. No matter how many demon beasts get in their way, they'll just laugh and kill 'em all. No way, no way, no way. Seriously, no way, seriously, no way. We're totally done for.
Practically out of breath, Subaru collapsed as he rambled in a tearful voice. He put Rem, who was on his back, over his knees, breathing raggedly as he lay low on the first floor of the mansion. Otto and Petra were right beside him, both completely exhausted. In that moonlit corridor, their group had encountered the demon beast Giltirao, and combat had ensued. Combat was a poor word to describe it. There was no way that Subaru and his current companions could land a blow on such a beast, so there had been no option but instantly fleeing. They tumbled into the nearest room and, seizing the opportunity when the monster's huge frame got stuck in the entrance, they fled out the window into the yard, putting some distance between them and their hunter. From there, they'd return to the mansion via a different room. But
The demon beast is biding its time and patrolling the entire building. It may have been assigned to guard this position when we poked our heads out earlier. It was right here in the main wing. Combining the magic stones I had on hand with a spell to muffle our footsteps allowed us to somehow get away, but
even when resorting to such tricks to throw the monstrous guard off their trail, it would be difficult to avoid encountering the creature if they wanted to secure a reliable escape route. In addition to the abominable Giltirao, there were numerous demon beasts milling about the mansion. These lesser creatures could be driven off with repel stones, but if they encountered any opposition, the Giltirao would undoubtedly notice, leaving them in a vicious cycle.
This is what I get for operating separately from Garfield, huh?
please do not speak such timid words. After all, this very moment, Garfield may well be howling in high spirits that we must be all right. We should at least respond with expectations equal to his.
You're so big on returning favors. You really aren't cut out to be a merchant.
Hearing these words from Otto, who was in the best physical condition among them, Subaru flashed a wry smile as he stood up with renewed resolve. Returning Rem to his back, he found her body despairingly light. Carrying an unconscious person was a heavy burden, a fact that he'd personally experienced in this world several times over, but in her current state, Rem was the exception to the rule. He couldn't feel her warmth or weight or much of anything at all. Her tenuous hold on existence even affected her physical body. Only the faint sounds of her heart and her sleeping breaths told him that she truly existed in her current state. If she fell off his back, he probably wouldn't even notice. Fearful of this exact possibility, he put even more strength into supporting Rem's body.
Subaru.
Petra moved closer to him, gently tugging on his sleeve with a somber expression. Petra, still so very young, had resolutely raced alongside them throughout the night of their lives without a single word of complaint, despite the great danger.
Oh, are you all right?
Her pink lips were pursed as she posed a question, not out of concern for her own life, but with words of concern for Subaru, so earnestly bearing Rem on his back, even as his own breaths ran ragged. Petra's feelings were like a healing salve to Subaru. Without such salvation, he would never have been even half as determined to go on. Despair wouldn't get them out of their predicament. Subaru Natsuki rose back to his feet.
Have you thought of something?
Perhaps seeing something in Subaru's expression, Otto closed one eye and questioned him so. He didn't even consider disguising the expectations and trust in the tone of his voice and his gaze. When Subaru looked over, he noticed Petra's eyes, peering up at him, held the very same expectations and trust. feeling those gazes on him, trusting without doubt that he must have thought of something. Subaru's breath caught. Then he wore a pained smile.
Hey, come on now. Just what do you two expect me to do here?
After deeply exhaling, Subaru rocked his body, gently adjusting Rem against his back. Expectations, if he was to invoke that word, it was Rem who expected more from Subaru than anyone. That moment, he was carrying her on his shoulders. That moment, Otto and Petra were staring at Subaru, expecting something from him. He breathed out. Then he decided with his gut.
We were trying to run from this mansion, but that means blowing past that demon beast, that something Rao thing.
However, it is difficult to defeat the beast with what we have at our disposal. What should we do?
Otto posed his question. Considering the capabilities of each person, the resources and techniques they possessed, and the mansion that served as the stage, how could they meet all the required conditions? Think.
We're short on martial and magical ability, so it's finally time for me to put my unparalleled modern knowledge to good use.
At first, the demon beast, Gilturao, the Black King of the forest, picked up a faint noise. It was a quiet, seemingly fearful sound, the sort of sound prey made as it clumsily attempted to sneak around. Hearing this, the Gilturao lifted its lion head upward, then almost seemed to sigh with raw disappointment. To the Gilturao, hunting was the very reason for its existence. It could think of no greater joy than to catch fleeing prey with its claws, plunge in its fangs, and drain the life from its mark to sate its empty belly. What mattered for the hunt was whether the prey was worthy of the fangs of the king. Hunting strong, sturdy, able-legged prey, taking it down through brute force, the current hunt completely failed to live up to those standards. Having its expectations dashed put the Gilturao in the most terrible of moods. Of course, it did not even think of defying the orders of its master, but it would obey those orders and nothing else. It simply owed a debt to the master who had liberated it from the curse of the horn. Accordingly, it had listened to her request. Moving its nose around, the Gilturao pursued the sound of the footsteps as its prey tried to slink away. Defenseless, thoughtless, unrestrained, futile. They were the footsteps of the weak, lacking any elegance whatsoever. The Gilturao sprinted with shocking agility that contrasted with its huge frame. Its four thick limbs did not make a sound as they trod upon the floor, a feat that brought into sharp relief why it was also called the Shadow Lion. Like an assassin, the Black King of the forest was a silent nightmare as it raced, seemingly leaping through the halls of the moonlit mansion. The footsteps it followed gradually became less guarded, betraying no sign of noticing the death stalking so very close. The one making the footsteps was right around the corner. The king swung a claw just beyond that corner, a single blow that would rend the prey's back apart, throwing its corpse to the ground and expose its humiliation in full. However, right after swinging its claw, the Gilturao paused, sensing something was off. The presence it was certain was there had vanished, and the only one standing in the corridor was the great and dignified king. The foolish, fragile, disgustingly weak prey had vanished, nowhere to be found. A moment later, another sound of shoes reached its ears, and the Gilturao ferociously took up its pursuit once more. Its target was using the stairs, heading for the floor below. The sound of fleeing, running footsteps made the Gilturao reassess its prey ever so slightly. It had gone from intolerably weak to a fool worthy of killing. If its quarry had merely been running wildly, the beast would have settled for ending things with a single claw swipe, cruelly slashing the fool apart. However, this prey had refused the king's mercy, willingly rejecting a quick death, and so it would die 1,000 deaths instead. The Gilturao kicked off the wall of a landing, its huge frame seemingly dancing as it leaped down the stairs. The hulking monster gave chase, reaching the second floor before going down one more, pursuing its prey to the lowest floor. In the distance, somewhere beyond the building, it heard the voice of its master trying to call it back. For an instant, the Gilturao pondered that voice, but it prioritized the prey right before its eyes. It was this very prey that had earned the master's ire. It would swiftly dispose of the fool and then rejoin her. Die, foolish prey. This is the greatest glory for those who defy the master. Feeling a surge of emotion, the king forgot even to suppress its own sound as it sprinted. The thunder of its very powerful footsteps announced to its fleeing prey, "The king, death itself, has come for you. Go ahead, try to run. Flee pathetically in a panic. Show me your back so that I may flay it open for you." Up ahead, it heard the sound of a door closing. The Giltirao did not hesitate to force it open by slamming its body home. This sent the door flying with great ease, and the Giltirao was greeted by a particularly spacious room. It was not a small, cramped room like the stupid, ignorant prey had fled into earlier. It was a spacious room where the Giltirao could swing its claws and leap around with its giant frame to its heart's content. Perhaps the prey was finally invoking the last of its spirit to challenge the Giltirao to a duel. However, the prey was nowhere to be seen, and at the back of the room, the monster heard the sound of yet another door closing. The door of an entrance separate from the one it had destroyed, and connecting the guest room to a smaller one, had shut. In the end, that is all you have, thought the Giltirao, genuinely disappointed. The guest room came with a large table with a white cloth over it, and atop that, a row of lit candles. The flickering flames illuminated the king's red face as with heavy steps it headed for the little room in back, its vile tail, like a great serpent, sharply swung about, easily slicing the wooden door apart. Savagely springing its forelegs up, the Giltirao drew in its breath. It then pushed in with a roar. Devastation! If there was a word worthy to describe what occurred in this sad tale, that was it. Absolute devastation. As the Giltirao swung its tail about, wildly raging with its bestial claws, the interior room was dominated by destruction worthy of the name. The cupboards storing foodstuffs and the cold storage were destroyed, while smoke erupted from the sacks and boxes lining the wall. The floor, struck by the heavy impact of paws, broke apart, and the carpet covering it was destroyed. A moment later, the Giltirao's vision was blanketed with white smoke. A vast quantity of dust sprang up, clouding the air and irritating the great beast's nostrils. It was enough to rob it of its eyesight and even prevent it from breathing in enough to roar.
You fell for it!
Then a voice rang out, as if the prey was shouting in victory. Then it heard that voice, not from the small room, but from the previous wide room.
Eat the power of science, baby! Dust explosion!
After a brief noise, it threw something into the small room. Something flickered red within the Giltirao's nearly all-white field of vision. It was one of the candles from the guest room. The candle struck the wall, and for a moment the reddish flame glowed brighter as it landed upon the floor.
Huh?
But that was all that happened. The candle remained on the floor, showing no further sign of change. The one who had thrown it was frozen in place and sounded like there'd been a miscalculation. The Giltirao's regal instincts screamed this was a golden opportunity. Something had put its opponent into a disadvantageous state. Even if that had not been the case, surely this trick would have been insufficient to put the Giltirao in peril. Nay, it would not underestimate its foe further. It would utilize every store of power. It would rend its prey apart, flay its skin, and feast in victory on the flesh and blood.
Ugh, that's why we told you. We shouldn't have tried this nonsensical method.
Normally, it's faster to do it this way.
The instant it leaped out of the little room, the Giltirao picked up a high-pitched voice and an even higher-pitched voice, clearly different from the prey it had spotted earlier, and the instant after it had that realization, a large quantity of something poured down from overhead. It was a liquid, certainly not water, and it felt slippery to the touch. Bathed in the yellowish fluid, the king felt its fangs trembling at having its proud black mane tarnished. However, it had the luxury to consider this for but a single instant.
This is the personal merchandise of Otto Suwen, oil bought with the entirety of his life savings. How do you like my wares?
As the prey shouted with joy, the Giltirao, had no way to stop what came next. The candles ignited the oil that had drenched the entirety of its body, wreathing the king with abominable flames. The Black King of the Forest had left the wilds, gaining a master, and, to the very end, wondered about the throne it had left vacant. Still unaware of what had defeated it, the demon beast was enveloped by flame the same color as its burning humiliation, scorching its body black, torching it until it had been reduced to ash.
So you can throw the sound of just footsteps, eliminate scents, little tricks like that are all your magic can do?
Having you belittle them weighs upon my mind, but I am impressed you remember such a thing. That said, will these spells prove useful? At most, they can make an opponent turn their head for but a single instant.
Super useful. We can use this to lure it into the trap. After that, I'll use the power of science to blow it away.
You certainly seem extremely confident, but this so-called power of science.
A dust explosion, the strongest trick in the book. Using foodstuffs makes it really simple to boot. With a bit of flour and an open flame, it'll work great. From what I know, it's guaranteed to send a single monster flying.
We went along with your plan because you sounded so confident, and now look at what's happened.
Oh, shadap. Scientific progress comes with sacrifices, you know. Damn, why'd it fail? Not enough dust, not enough flame. Or do the laws of physics in this world just not work the same way?
Ah! Stop talking about that and keep up. Ack, it's no good. No! No!
With Subaru and Otto angrily yelling at each other, Petra scolded them with a desperate look on her face. The noisy trio was being illuminated by the brilliant light of red flames. That was only natural, for at present they were doing their best to put out the fire in the dining hall. However, the flames seemed to be only getting stronger.
You used too much oil, damn it. You sure as hell spread it around enough. How'd you plan on putting it out?
As if anyone can hunt down such a huge demon beast while holding back. In the first place, it'd be the same result whether I used it all up or not. You're buying every last drop either way.
Both of you, this isn't the time. We can't put it out. Let's run.
With a frustrated look on his face, Subaru hurled the tablecloth, which had also caught on fire, into the quickly growing flames. There was no sign of the inferno in the pantry burning itself out. It had already spread to quite a bit of the dining hall, and black smoke began to seep out.
We managed to defeat the demon beast, but the cost we paid is too high.
The source of the flames was the black and charred demon beast, the guilty row. Just as they'd planned, Otto's sneaky magic had led it downstairs, where they used a dust explosion in the pantry to bring it down. Or not, since the dust explosion had failed. Instead, Otto had secured their victory by using his stock of oil to burn the thing to death. The beast was a muscle brain befitting its enormous frame, especially considering how it never suspected a thing as it fell into the trap. But because it flailed around wildly as it died, the flames had transferred to everything around it, completely setting the mansion on fire.
This isn't a repair job anymore. It's a tear down and rebuild job.
Is this really the time? Let's run, before we lose the stairs.
Quickly, quickly.
Subaru found it surreal to watch the familiar sights and spaces catch on fire as the other two grabbed him by his sleeves and dragged him off. Pulled by the pair, Subaru readjusted Rem on his back as they ran from the burning dining hall. Otto and Petra used repel stones to drive away any demon beasts that appeared along the way. There were also signs that demon beasts were fleeing the building, instinctively fearful of black smoke and fire.
But what if Garfield burns to death from this?
Without the Guiltiro prowling around, Garfield can escape too. Besides, surely he can send demon beasts packing and leap out of the building all by himself, even without using the escape route.
Subaru was trembling from unwittingly wrecking the entire battlefield, but even in that situation, Otto remained as clever as ever. Thanks to that, they arrived at the upper floor in good order. Fortunately, no other demon beasts immune to the effects of the repel stone appeared. Subaru and company fled into the study, and Petra operated the mechanism on the bookshelf on the wall. Slowly, making a sound, the bookshelf moved, and the hidden passage heading underground, linked to the outside, revealed itself.
We did it! Subaru! It's the hidden passage. With this, we can get out of here.
Yeah, I suppose so. If you head down to the bottom of these stairs and follow the passage, you can escape outside. The exit will be well outside the perimeter. That just leaves. Here, Otto, take Rem.
Yes, I understand. I will take very good care of her.
Nodding to Petra, who was overjoyed they had made it, Subaru turned his back to Otto next. Then he slowly, gently passed Rem from his back onto Otto's. His movements were careful, so as not to let her fall.
Do not drop her. Do not let her get hurt. And do not touch her in strange ways.
Setting your concerns aside, your possessiveness comes across as quite bothersome.
Hey, you too. Why are you talking like that?
With Otto now carrying Rem on his back, Subaru flippantly warned to be careful. Hearing this exchange, Petra raised a question with a worried face.
From the way you're talking right now, it sounds like Subaru isn't coming with us.
That's just how it is. Sorry, but I can't run with you. From this point on, I gotta go it alone.
Why?
When Subaru confirmed her suspicions, Petra's face paled as she clung to him.
Let's run already. The mansion's on fire, and it'll just make more trouble for Miss Frederica. There's still a lot of demon beasts, and it's not like you can beat them if you fight them, Subaru. So let's run.
Well, that's all totally true, but I can't run from this. I can't run, not yet.
Even though he was happy seeing Petra try to stop him, Subaru gently took her fingers off him one by one. As he did so, the sadness in her big eyes spread even further. In an effort to chide Petra, Otto, standing right beside her, tossed his voice her way.
Petra, Mr. Natsuki still has something he needs to do. Until he accomplishes it, Mr. Natsuki will not falter. You understand this well, yes.
But Subaru's weak. It's dangerous. You should stay with him, Mr. Otto.
The way you said that doesn't make it sound as if you have much faith in my strength, though.
Otto's voice made Petra shake her head. There were tears welling in her eyes as she looked up at Subaru. Subaru got onto his knees so he was on her eye level and then gently stroked her head.
Sorry, Petra. I'm getting you, Rem, and Frederica out of this mansion safe and sound. But it's not just you three. There's one more person I have to bring out of here.
You mean Lady Beatrice?
Even though she hates trouble and acts all lonely, she's a total busybody, always trying to do everything by herself. Suffering because of the dumb answers she comes up with, and cowering, because she won't settle things herself.
When Subaru described the girl, the loneliness of her existence made Petra widen her eyes.
I mean, Beatrice is pretty much the same age you are, Petra. Your heights might be a little different. Come to think of it, Petra, you might be a lot like her first friend.
First friend.
Beatrice's first and foremost friend had been Ryuzu Meyer. There had to have been a tangible friendship between her and Beatrice. If Beatrice carried the scars that remained all that time, then maybe...
After I come back with Beatrice, you'll probably become friends with her. I'm sure you'll like her, Petra. She's awesomely fun to tease.
More than Mr. Otto?
Yeah, fun enough that you won't have use for Otto anymore.
Judging from Otto's expression, he wanted to say something, but Subaru deliberately ignored him. Then Subaru stopped stroking Petra's head and rose to his feet.
I'll go look for Beatrice. I plan to try hard enough that I don't burn to death, but if I do, carve on my tombstone that I died because of the fire from Otto's oil, okay?
Inscribing tombstones being too much trouble. I will give you a smacking if you do not return safe and sound. Truly, I will.
Otto seemed to wince as he made his declaration. Then he tilted his back, turning Rem's sleeping face Subaru's way. The princess, still asleep as always, couldn't even bear witness to Subaru's resolve as he prepared to depart. That was fine. It wasn't Rem's place to see Subaru's off. It was Subaru's job to go to her.
Subaru, be careful, okay?
Petra offered up her very own repel crystal. Accepting this, Subaru set off. He did not reply to Petra's voice as she called out behind him. Petra didn't need him to do so either. Bit by bit, the flames were covering the mansion, and the place he had spent many days in was quickly turning to ash. Would the fire reach even the archive of forbidden books? As he looked for the door to reach her, Subaru could not help but wonder. Chapter 4. Next time, I am sure we'll have tea. Sensing that the trial had begun, my mind instantly awakened. This trial felt closest to the first one. I was aware of my own existence and firmly conscious that I was undertaking a challenge. It wasn't like the second trial when my own existence was far more indistinct. However, there was clearly one point that differed from before. Here, I had no body. My 5 senses had vanished, and my body had been lost. What was present was my consciousness alone. It felt like my consciousness was floating in the sky. Perhaps this was what it felt like to have one's fickle soul cast into the water by its lonesome. In spite of this mysterious circumstance, I felt no sense of danger as I strove to slowly grasp the situation.
My non-existent brain seemed to understand this place posed no danger, and that my mind here was able to have such realizations. My surroundings were dark, a space of nothing, save darkness spread forth, within which my body did not exist. That I did not lose myself even so was due to the multiple lights that were floating in the darkness. These faint lights of various colors were hovering around me. The glow they emitted resembled that of lesser spirits, but I felt no life force coming from these lights. They were inorganic. Perhaps they were closer to magical crystals that gave off light. Either way, I and the lights were the only things in that world. They continued swimming in that space, with nothing moving but the flow of time. Nay, in that circumstance, I could not firmly grasp whether even time was flowing or not. The witch who normally served as a guide had not appeared. In the darkness, I hesitated over the unchanging situation into which I had been cast. The situation being what it was, my consciousness naturally ended up drawn to the lights. Selecting a silver-colored one from the multitude of lights, I was just a tiny bit apprehensive when I tried to touch it. The very notion of touching assumed you had a body in the first place. Was that even possible here? Rather than ponder, it was faster to try it and see. Reaching that conclusion, I immediately tried it out. My consciousness overlapped with the light, and this indeed was not touch. It felt more like I was intermingling with it.
Hate, hate. I hate you. I really hate you. Really. All of it is true. Always, since the moment I met you, I have hated you. I cannot stand the sight of you.
The instant she came into contact with the light, a voice echoed directly into her consciousness. Simultaneously, a powerful reddish scene leaped toward her. She'd switched spaces, and a moment she had never witnessed played out before her. The sun was unnaturally large. Smoke was rising from Re-Zero, Starting Life in Another World by Tepe Nagatsuki, casted six-tale novel. Please subscribe to our channel. The scorched plains, and standing right beside an enormous, decrepit structure bathed directly in the scarlet sunlight, was a silver-haired girl marred with blood. Emilia, the grown-up version of herself she had only just seen in the second trial, was standing there blood-ridden.
I've thought this many times, and I have denied it many times, but the nightmare truly has come, so I will say it.
A smile came over her bloodied face. It was a smile toward the person she hated most in that world.
Perhaps it is true. We should never have met.
At the corner of one of her purple eyes, a tear formed a single line as it gently fell. The drop coursed down her cheek, and just before it fell from her chin onto the blood-marred ground, the world burst apart and vanished. Her consciousness, lacking a body, could not draw in its breath. All she could do was endure the desperate urge to do so with all her might. As Emilia returned to the darkness once more, she found herself in a world with nothing but her consciousness and the lights floating around her.
What was that blood-ridden Amelia in the scene she saw beyond the light just then? Thus far, she had seen her own appearance only twice, but she had definitely seen herself in that moment. The problem was that she had no recollection of anything like that ever happening. Or perhaps that was some kind of future that would never exist. No, Amelia instinctively thought.
Calming her chaotic consciousness, Emilia searched within her memories, turning back toward the very beginning. The trials had always indicated at the start what the challenger was to accomplish. In the first, it was, first, face your past. In the second, it was, behold the unknowable present. And this third time, it was, face the calamity that shall come.
The calamity that shall come. Did that mean it was the future? The trials first showed a past linked to one's greatest regret, then they showed a present that did not, and could not exist. Last, the challenger was shown a future she would inevitably have to confront head-on. These were the entirety of the trials the tomb had prepared for her. Would that future of a place enveloped with some kind of twilight, a future where she would tearfully hate someone, actually come to pass one day?
After a time, neither accepting nor rejecting it, Emilia's thoughts were interrupted as she realized something. The light Emilia had touched earlier was gone, leaving only a palpable void. Even so, the lights numbered 20, so there were still plenty to go. This was the moment she suddenly grasped the meaning behind the phenomenon. The lights. Each and every one of the lights hovering in the darkness was a future that awaited Emilia. This trial probably would not come to an end until she had witnessed them all.
Were the futures she would bear witness to all different from one another? Or would they be continuations of the one she just visited? The answer would come once she touched another light and saw its future.
When she moved to the next light over from the blank space, it became a clear blue passage like an azure sky.
It's just like you said. That kid's our enemy, and our wounds run deep. I can't use healing magic, so even if we back out now, I might not be able to save you. Then, but that kid's still a kid. Isn't this enough?
The scene differed from the one before, with two figures standing atop sheer cliffs with a commanding view. One of them had his back turned toward the deep forest behind him. She could not see his face, but she remembered his voice. It was one of the people closest to her. Perhaps not as much as the other person, but she definitely remembered him. The person atop the opposite cliff was on one knee, and as he knelt in this position, he was looking down at the other. Though she could not see his expression, Emilia could tell both of them were making terribly melancholic faces.
You're a hero. You can't be anything but a hero. Thank you for saving me, damn it.
When the other figure reached out with his hand, the figure with his back turned lobbed words of gratitude his way. It was a parting of nigh unbearable sadness. It was a moment of parting marred by indelible despair.
The projection had run its course. She returned to the world of darkness. She had pathos and melancholy both. But more than that, she held a question toward this trial. She did not see herself anywhere within the world she had just visited. Neither of the people in that place was Emilia. She could guess who they were, but why had she witnessed a scene, a future without her? Was she being shown a future that was the result of her own choices? Then how was she supposed to face the calamity that would inevitably come?
Amid that silence, the blue light vanished. Just like the initial silver light, a void had been born. Nearly 20 more lights continued to surround Emilia. Awaiting within each and every one was a tragic future that was the result of her choices. Determined to accept them all, she stretched her consciousness toward the next one. In one future after another, Emilia's choices and the calamity they would invariably bring about awaited her. She saw the future.
Without that, have you not even a sword to swing, you damn thief? Subaru and Emilia are both tired, right? Sorry. And yet, even I've become a burden on you. I always wanted to say, I'm sorry for never measuring up. My granddaughter. My pride and joy has grown to be a good child.
As she touched the variously colored lights, Emilia continued to see different futures.
Sorry. I'm so sorry I can't kill you because I'm weak. Sorry. Even so, I'll keep you to myself for all eternity. I'm sorry I'm so weak. What? You feel like this is fulfilling your promise? If so, then you should have left me to die wrapped in a mat in that cave. If you were going to show me a dawn like this, it should all have ended there. Damn it all. I absolutely will not allow you to die for some nonsensical reason like a curse.
There were wails. There were angry shouts. In different forms, they indicated endings, renewals, meetings, and partings.
Oh, look, I won again. To think someone I want to kill this much turned out to be such a gentle person, what a nightmare. You have bent your knees before irresistible despair, and you have lost even your sword. Just what is it you still cling to?
She asked herself whether the things awaiting her, the futures at which she would arrive, were not some kind of mistake.
Am I really that greedy? Do I really ask so much? I just don't want to be alone. I don't want to become alone. Is that so hard to understand? I'll kill you, just as I promised. Got that, Subaru Natsukini?
Was there really nothing but despair in these futures? Was there anything beyond the sadness, beyond the suffering?
I merely realized something. The days I've spent until now were by no means days I walked alone. In the end, 'twould seem we must atone with every last drop of our blood, does it not?
What had gone wrong? Did she wish for the wrong things?
Why won't the soul take? Whether it's with justice or villainy, you can't solve every problem under the sun. That's what you just stepped in. If you block our path, I don't care if you're a witch or a dragon, I'll crush you.
She was being shown untold tragedies and calamities. Amid that deluge of despair, which was enough to make her want to cry, she came to doubt everything she had done. If all that awaited the end of her journey was tragedy, that was simply...
I believe praying for one's desires is arrogance. Prayer is for seeking forgiveness.
In the future of the final light, a girl her waking self should never have set eyes upon spoke those words. It was not fleeting enough to be hopeful and too bold to be despairing. Her non-existent pulse quickened. After all, she'd seen nothing but sad, agonizing futures in all that time.
I want to have a proper conversation with you, no matter what the future holds. She thought if a certain boy was with her, they could speak together and laugh about the futures they hoped for. Even if all that awaited her were worlds of tragedy, she felt in her heart that if she could at least have that much.
When her vision opened up, Amelia was standing right in the middle of grass rustling in the wind. She had arrived immediately after the darkness, and the continually switching worlds had stopped. At first, Amelia thought she was being shown yet another future, but she immediately realized this was something else.
I have actual hands and feet, and my voice is coming out. So this must be...
Clenching both hands into fists, Amelia confirmed she possessed physical flesh. Then she surveyed her surroundings, realizing this grassland was unfamiliar, and the presence of a little hill right behind her. Atop the hill, a large parasol was spread. Naturally, this drew her to go closer. Climbing up the hill, she found a white table and chairs under the parasol, and the faint whiff of warm tea wafted in the air. Naturally, she surmised Echidna might be here, so Amelia was on guard. But
No one's here?
there were 6 chairs arranged by the round table. Set atop the table were confections and cups, equal in number to the chairs, leaving the distinct sense that she had shown up right before some kind of tea party. Yet it seemed as if everything had been abandoned midway without even cleaning up, leaving nothing of the participants but empty seats. When she touched a cup which still had some tea in it, she felt a faint trace of warmth. It felt like anyone would be shaken if they saw what Amelia was up to.
Echidna was having tea with someone, and then...
She understood as much already, but for a dead person, Echidna sure had considerable freedom of action in this place. She was amazed that beyond her work as the administrator of the trials, she'd go as far as to invite her guests to tea. Hear the dead, or their ghosts, or to the greatest extent free. Deeply moved by that fact, Amelia reached a hand toward one of the sweets without particular thought.
You might be trying to act like a witch, but put so much as a finger on those, and you'll regret it.
Shocked by the unfamiliar voice suddenly calling out to her from behind, Amelia tried to instantly turn around, and her shock deepened further, for a finger touch to the back of her head rendered her body completely immobile. It wasn't that she was being restrained by force. She was held in place by the sheer overwhelming pressure. The person standing right behind Amelia was a being beyond her comprehension. Gleaning this just from her aura and the touch of her finger, Amelia felt her entire body rapidly go numb. She sensed if she turned around, or at the slightest whim of the person behind her, she would be instantly and utterly annihilated.
Good girl, you are correct not to look back. For
You are?
I am, well, you know, a witch so terrifying, she makes every hair on your body stand on end.
Which, that single word entwined tightly around Amelia's heart, making it even harder to breathe. Amelia, often slandered as a witch because of her appearance, had complex feelings where the term was concerned. However, even so, the being she was standing in front of seemed completely beyond all her preconceptions. Were all the beings worthy of being called true witches, shrouded in such immense miasma?
I guess that's that, then. It really is the boy with the foul look in his eyes who's the strange one.
Foul? Look? Are you talking about Subaru?
The instant you hear that boy's name, you perk up. That's marvelous, but you don't really have a good grasp of the situation, do you? And what do you think of that boy anyway?
Subaru told me he loves me. He's a very precious boy to me, but...
Oh? So that's it? Well, really, it's all the same to me.
To Amelia, It was not at all clear why she would dismiss with ragged breath the question she herself had just posed. However, at the same time, she felt her fear toward the witch at her back faintly diminish. She did not know the reason. Perhaps she could simply tell the being was not impervious to dialogue. Relying upon that sense, Amelia swallowed once. Then, hardening her will, she began to speak.
You're a witch, aren't you? Does that mean you're one of the friends Echidna spoke of?
It's not like that girl ever called us Fry Wait. I bet she did. And with a smug face too, I'm sure.
I don't know about a smug look, but if you're here, where's Echidna?
In the first place, Echidna had been in a foul mood every time she had come into contact with Amelia. Therefore, she felt when Echidna had let slip about her friends. It hadn't been with pride or with a boastful face at all. Hearing Amelia's reply, the witch went, "Now hold on," the tone of her voice lowering just a bit.
She said she doesn't want to meet you. It looked like she had a pretty rough time in the trials.
It seems that way. Echidna seemed really hurt the last time I met her.
Amelia couldn't forget the hatred that filled Echidna's voice and expression at the end of the second trial. If that was truly the last time she would speak with Echidna, Amelia would be left with terrible regret. Even so, the relationship between Amelia and Echidna had been one of accepting the results head-on without anyone else's intervention. Even if Amelia ended up being hated, she wanted to take responsibility for her choices.
It's not that she doesn't care. It's that she's accepted the results. You're quite admirable, you know, even though that rascal said nothing but mean things to you.
That's because Echidna spoke with me. I find it much harder to deal with the people who won't talk to me. If I could, I'd love to face you and talk with you too. But
You absolutely cannot do that. If you do that, my fists, which have let so many people die, will cry out.
She spoke in a hard voice, but it was one that betrayed no hint of fabrication. Goosebumps broke out over Amelia once more. The witch's words truly did carry the weight of having let a great many people die. That weight remained as the witch led off by saying, "One really should fulfill her duty, though. Echidna tossed the duty of administrator away, so I am taking it up in her place. What did you see in the third trial?"
I saw many sad worlds. The voice said this was the calamity that would inevitably come. Will everything I've seen really happen? Are they really the future?
In Echidna's view, it is possible they might happen.
The witch made a heavy sigh as she replied to the question Amelia harbored. It was close to confirmation, yet vague enough that one could not say for sure. If they had been mere fabrications, it would have been easier on her heart, but
The futures you saw could all come true, one day, or you might not see a single one happen ever. However, they are not fabrications. That girl is very fair about these kinds of things. Well, the fact that she showed you only futures that'd leave a bad taste in your mouth is definitely because she has a bone to pick with you.
Fair. But Echidna is a really naughty girl, isn't she?
Does naughty even cover it?
the witch offered a wry comment in response to Amelia's assessment of Echidna but said no more of the matter. Also, from Amelia's perspective, the current witch's explanation was good news.
Why do you seem so relieved?
Eh.
I'm asking, how can you act relieved after what you just heard? That's strange, isn't it? I mean, you've been shown nothing but terrible futures, yet, in spite of that,
But they're not certain, right?
Amelia had seen nothing but tragedies. It had been an unrelenting series of lamentations and tears of blood. It had been enough to make her question whether she was making the right choices. But
The futures I saw were a result of choices I've made. But there are also futures that won't turn out that way. Now that I know that, I'll be okay. I can clench my fists and fight. Someone really insisted that I have to do that. You see?
they might have all been painful futures, but even then there was still hope. That was what she had learned. If Amelia seemed ready to falter, her memories of her parents and her older brother would sustain her. And if she was ever inclined to give up, the feelings scribbled on those walls would ignite a fire in her heart.
If sad futures await, I'll run around them. If that doesn't work, I'll leap over them with all my might. If people have fallen along the way, I'll pull them up. If I keep doing those things, I'm sure I'll wipe away all those tears from before.
you say that, so full of confidence. so recklessly, you might end up broken in no time flat.
If it was just me, maybe, but I'm not alone.
Amelia puffed her chest out in response to the witch's provocation. Just as in the past and present, Amelia surely wouldn't be alone in the future, and she had a large group of dependable people around her. That wasn't to say it was good to blindly depend on them. But if they relied on her and she on them, they would be together always. Even as she depended on others, Amelia would develop her own self-reliance. It was a choice she could never have made before, what with her lacking confidence and fear of the future.
You're strong. That part of you isn't like your mother at all.
You know my mother?
The unexpected connection surprised Amelia, leaving her voice slightly hoarse. Her reaction made the witch hesitate for a time, after which she let out her breath.
Yes, I know her well, but I will say nothing of her. I've promised not to.
The depth of emotion and the echo of unhealed wounds infused into the witch's voice made Amelia's words catch in her throat. If she was honest, she did want to know about her mother, but…
I understand. I won't ask anything. Then
You're fine with that?
I can tell it isn't that you don't want to tell me. It's that you can't. Besides,
For a moment, she paused and closed her eyes and pictured her mother.
my mother is Fortuna. The trials helped me remember her. That's plenty for me.
In her younger days, she was proud of having had two mothers. Even in the present, she might be able to say she had three fathers. Even so, two musso.
I remembered Mom. I remembered Dad. And I remembered my big brother and everyone in the forest. That's plenty. This was all because of Echidna's trials. So…
I see. So even that girl's, even Echidna's wicked deeds result in something good once in a while.
As Amelia touched a hand to her chest and reminisced about her family, the witch's voice seemed to almost crack for a moment. Perhaps Amelia had misheard, but it sounded like a sob.
Could it be that you're crying?
I'm not crying. I don't cry. I don't have the right to cry. Not anymore.
No one needs a right to…
Cry. Amelia was about to say as she turned, wanting to wipe away the witch's tears. She no longer felt the grand, overwhelming presence that had dominated her first meeting with the witch. She wanted to stand with her on equal footing. But when Amelia tried to turn to face her, the witch… As Amelia turned, an arm wrapped around her head, holding her face close against something soft. She immediately realized she had been pulled into a hug. Her face was pinned against the witch's chest, completely preventing her from moving.
I told you not turning was the right choice. What a badly behaved girl you are.
You hate the idea of me seeing you cry that much?
I don't want you to see me at all. I can't face anyone with, good grief. If only Echidna had taken care of things properly. And Sekhmet, and Daphne, and Typhon, and Carmilla too.
The witch's yelling made her ears tremble. It sounded like angry shouting, but it wasn't. Amelia felt undiluted love for each of the unfamiliar names spoken by her.
Are you then crying?
I'm angry. My tears dried up. But now I just feel indignant. I'm so furious. Every hair on my head is shaking.
That's really scary.
I'm serious. We are done here.
Her voice was gentle. Amelia could feel no anger from it. But something happened that proved her words were no lie. As the witch hugged Amelia against her chest, Amelia realized a change had arisen in the place right behind her, where a tea party should have been set up, as a powerful wind blew through the space.
That is the way out of Echidna's castle. Turn and walk forward, and you will be able to go back. You don't have time to hang around in a place like this, do you? You still have things you need to do. Why not try taking the first step?
She felt the witch's voice right above her head fade. There was warmth within the arms hugging her and a faintly audible heartbeat coming from the chest her head rested against, which was strange, given that the witch was dead.
Hey, are you listening to me?
I'm sorry. I felt oddly calm just now.
That part of you is so
I made her angry, thought Amelia, but the witch's words softened. They felt nostalgic for some reason. Before she could press the point, the witch declared, "Okay, time to go."
Wow.
Walk straight forward. With this, the trials have ended, the barrier will open.
Something grasped Amelia's head and turned it right around with such swiftness and precision that she never got a look at the witch's face. Instead, what she saw before her was a single door. Standing right there atop the hill between her and the tea party preparations was a door all by its lonesome.
If I leave through there,
The trials would end and the barrier would be lifted. These were the results that Amelia had sought. Then, whether they liked it or not, a choice would be forced upon the residents of the sanctuary. She did not know how many of the people gathered in the clearing would leave in the very end, nor did she know if doing so would bring uncertainty to their lives or if all this was truly in their best interests. But just as Subaru had told Garfield, Amelia had something to tell them too. Time was ever in motion, and amid that passage of time, everyone needed to come to terms with themselves. And if no solution presented itself, Amelia wanted to join with them and search for one together. If pulling people by the hand or pushing them forward was too difficult, she could still walk with them side by side. Even though she was unreliable, gutless, and had only barely begun to demonstrate she was suited for the throne.
It's fine.
Amelia had not voiced any of the swirling emotions in her chest. Despite that, the witch's affirmation carried power.
Thank you. I think that's how I prefer to live anyway.
After smoothing out her silver hair, Amelia stepped forward. That she did not turn around, never seeing the witch's face to the very end, was her way of respecting the witch's will. She no longer felt any of the fear that came unbidden when first encountering the witch. She simply puffed out her chest and walked with pride. Then, when she moved her hand toward the door leading outside, she said the thought that suddenly came to mind.
Hey, Miss Witch, if you run into Echidna, can you tell her something for me?
What is it?
If we meet again, next time, let's have tea together. Even if she haunts my dreams, I'm sure I'll welcome her. If possible, I'd like to have it with you and the other witches too.
Why?
For a moment, Amelia's request made the witch hesitate, and then,
Yes, I'll tell her exactly that, and if she doesn't like it, I'll grab her by the scruff of her neck and drag her along anyway.
the witch confidently spoke those words with conviction. The tone of her voice made plain that she was being quite serious. Amelia smiled pleasantly as she received the reply. She pushed the door open, stepping into the unfolding darkness beyond. She did not hesitate. Amelia understood precisely where it led. Having overcome her past and selected the present, this was the door that continued into the future. When she awoke from the trials, it felt different than coming out of sleep. Her body had not been sleeping. Rather, her soul had been separated from her body. With the soul split from the body and the consciousness remaining awake, one might say it was natural that it would feel different. If she was sleeping normally, Amelia, never a morning person, would have been in peril of losing precious time. In the past, she had Puck, but she would have to deal with such things herself thereafter.
Oh no. It feels like I'm about to cry.
Clenching her teeth, Amelia shook her head, as if to ward off the sense of loss she had yet to recover from. From there, she rose to her feet, stroked the writing on the wall with her palm, and then turned her gaze toward the back of the stone room. The stone room in which the trial was conducted, one she had already passed through several times over, had another door at the back leading farther in. It had been firmly closed and seemed completely impassable. Yet now,
It's open. Is this saying, come on in?
the witch atop the hill had said going through the door would lift the barrier. But though the tomb had changed, Amelia did not see any sign that the barrier had been lifted. Yet, at the same time, she felt something else. In a true sense, what awaited deeper within was the key to lifting that barrier.
I mustn't get all worried. Anyway, I'll go, see, and do. Okay, let's go.
Pushing back against the faint unease in her chest, Amelia spurred herself on and passed through the door. Inside was a path that was more cramped than the one that led from the entrance to the stone room, which Amelia could pass through because of her relatively low stature. It was not long until she arrived at a new stone room. This was a little chamber substantially smaller than the one in which the trials had been conducted. The other stone room had by no means been large, but a scant 2 of the large beds from Rosewall Manor would have left no legroom whatsoever. But such stray thoughts vanished as soon as she saw what was placed in the center of the room. To Amelia's eyes, it looked like a coffin. The coffin was transparent, probably made from magic crystals of some sort. The purity was so high, it made her shudder from a single glance, rivaling, or even exceeding, that of the stone Puck had used as his icon. Within the coffin, constructed from magic crystals of such abnormal composition, rested a single woman. Naturally, she was not breathing. Her pallid face bore no signs of vitality. This was an empty shell devoid of life. She had long, glossy hair as pure as any snow. Her skin was reminiscent of porcelain, and her face was so lovely that just seeing it was enchanting. Her torso and limbs were covered in a dress that seemed pitch black, making her a woman of black and white, the extremes of the world, with her ethereal beauty unmarred by anything extraneous. Without thinking, Amelia let a sigh of admiration trickle from her lips. If she looked in a mirror, she would be greeted by one of the beauties of the age, but Amelia had little appreciation for her own face. However, her heart was now trembling from the immaculate beauty of the woman before her. It was a face she had met many times over in the trials, that of the Witch of Greed.
She looks like Echidna, but who is this?
Though reminiscent of the witch, Amelia had never seen this woman before. Accompanied by faint surprise, Amelia's thoughts strayed from the coffin as she surveyed the room's interior. It was a cramped room. She hardly needed to look around to tell the coffin was the only notable object within. There was no sign of a door or a path leading deeper. This was the innermost part of the tomb, the room in which its mistress ought to have been laid to rest.
And yet, this isn't Echidna, but she does resemble her. An older sister, maybe?
Her memories of the witch's appearance were still fresh. There were many commonalities between her and this woman. With her eyelids closed, her face, from her eyes to the bridge of her nose down to her lips, seemed constructed in a similar fashion. But in contrast to Echidna, who looked to be in the latter half of her teens, this woman was old enough to be in her mid-20s, though there seemed no doubt they were connected by blood.
It's really weird for an older sister to be resting here even though it's Echidna's tomb, but
With no other conclusions coming to mind, Amelia tilted her head at the mysteriousness of it. Then she tilted her head further as she noticed the ritual that spread throughout the entirety of the tomb, with this coffin as its center.
ah,
Both the scale of the ritual and the level of its complexity were impressive. Accordingly, Amelia was certain this was the key to the barrier constructed in the sanctuary.
incredible. It's amazing. I don't have any idea what to do.
Though she was a spirit mage, Amelia strove to have a decent understanding of magic beyond her specialty. However, the complexity of the ritual before her eyes was far beyond anything like the fundamentals that Amelia was familiar with. If it was stopped once, it would never activate again. Of course, there was no need to do so regardless.
If I stop the flow here, that should break it?
Touching a hand against the coffin, Amelia found the core of the precisely crafted ritual. It matched up with where the woman sleeping in the coffin folded her hands over her chest. That was the nucleus. For one brief moment, she hesitated. If she broke the ritual, the barrier would be lifted, and the tomb, bereft of its duty, would become dormant. If that happened, she would lose her only means of going to the tea party, as well as all leads about the witch who knew her mother.
That has nothing to do with any of this.
Amelia slammed a fist against the coffin, seemingly to drive her hesitance away. That instant, the core of the ritual shattered, and cracks spread across the crystalline lid of the coffin like a spider's web. The shattering of the core made the flow of mana go completely out of control, sending a torrent of dazzling light surging within the room. This light disturbed the serene atmosphere, making Amelia's silver hair glimmer, before finally, it suddenly vanished. The tomb's functions had come to a halt. That was what Amelia read from the shift in the air.
This time, it's over. It has to be.
There was no change visible to the eye, yet something was unmistakably different. Clenching her teeth, Amelia was certain that the room had become a simple resting place for a coffin, that the tomb itself had become a mere structure. With this, the barrier imprisoning the residents of the sanctuary was gone. The choice whether to accept that result and live outside the sanctuary was now theirs. Of course, with Roswell's support at her back, Amelia intended to respect the decision the people made, no matter who they might be.
Come to think of it, Roswell mentioned a teacher. Is this person his teacher?
Roswell had spoken the word when he directed biting sarcasm and ferocious insults at Amelia just prior to her challenging the tomb. He'd said, in the beginning, it was just him and his teacher. She didn't know any details about what it was the two of them had started. But if he meant the sanctuary itself, the ties between this woman and Roswell ran deep.
On that note, I need to speak to everyone, to Ram and Roswell especially.
The woman in the coffin was secondary. Her top priority was to tell everyone the fact that the barrier had been lifted and to get the people remaining in the sanctuary out. Subaru hadn't explained the fine details, but he had said this was necessary. And that probably had something to do with Roswell's odd behavior. She needed to hurry. Turning, Amelia slipped through the passage with urgent steps, heading through the stone room on her way outside. The people of the sanctuary in Earlham Village should have still been in the clearing, with Ryuzu and Mildy representing them. Then, as Amelia raced out of the tomb, skin-stabbing cold and the ferociously blowing snow covering the sanctuary made Amelia let out a white breath. The scent of smoke and fire filling his nostrils stole Garfield's attention for only an instant. He had a vague awareness of scorching heat in the distance. Slowly but surely, the burning was spreading, which meant the fire was gradually consuming the mansion. Just who had unleashed it?
Getting distracted again?
Not letting a single moment of stagnancy slip by, Elsa closed in and swung, pursuing Garfield with her blade. Seeking to take his life as the price of looking away was a rather greedy thing, even more so where Garfield, on-time apostle of the Witch of Greed, was concerned. But having severed all ties with the Witch of Greed, he was unmoved by such avarice.
As if!
That's too bad.
Once more, Garfield caught a slashing knife by his fangs before biting down and shattering it. Having lost her weapon to the power of his jaws, Elsa instantly let go of the handle and leaped backward. Garfield remained planted at a medium distance as she put a fresh kukri into her hand, tilting her head.
You pretended to be distracted. Quite an actor you are. Or perhaps that was an invitation?
You don't need to make every single thing you say suggestive. Would just stop playing dumb already.
About what?
The smile on Elsa's glossy lips only deepened Garfield's suspicions. From her reaction, he concluded there was no connection between Elsa and the fire. The time they'd spent together in mortal combat had established she wasn't one to rely on trickery or seduction. In that case, the chance that someone on his side was responsible for the fire, probably spawning from one of Subaru's plans, was high.
That's pretty extreme, but it sure as hell is effective. Way to go, General!
I am a little unsure what this is about, but don't you put a little too much stock in him.
Ha! Save the sour grapes. I told ya, those demon beasts standing in the way ain't no match for the General. Piece of cake!
If Subaru was the mastermind behind the fire, the objective was probably to drive off the demon beasts. Whether the proposal came from Subaru or Otto, it was exactly the kind of thing they would resort to. Demon beasts feared fire too. They'd probably succeeded in securing the escape route, which meant,
if I smash it flat, that'll complete our victory.
You certainly talk a good game. Is not that easier said than done, though?
as Garfield psyched himself up, a bloody smile hovered in his field of vision as Elsa's form grew indistinct. As she entered the realm of pure speed in a single step, Garfield opted to lower his stance and charge as well. With the space between them gone in a single instant, the two collided in the middle of the corridor. Or rather, just before they were to do so, one kicked off the ceiling and the other from the floor as both respectively bounded away from that place. The next moment, the wall facing the courtyard was destroyed by an impact that seemed to make the entire building shudder. The impact had struck the first floor, turned battlefield, but clearly the floor above was not spared as it began to cave in. All this was due to the enormous boulder-like demon beast that had so grandly crashed into the building. Naturally, the appearance of a beast so huge that it shocked the imagination was an unexpected development even to Garfield. This was followed by something more unexpected still, a cutesy voice levying objections from atop the mass of boulders.
Oh, can't believe you're doing this. Stand up, Rock Piggy. Quick.
Some runts ridden that thing?
The rambunctious voice he heard coming from atop the beast left Garfield with a grimace. When he looked closer, there was a girl with blue hair and a braid straddling the back of the massive boulders, so this was the Beastmaster in the flesh. And the reason this Beastmaster was intruding here was...
Garf, so this is where you were.
Sis?
With a flourish, a blonde maid, Frederica, slipped through the shattered wall and landed in the half-destroyed corridor. The reunion with Frederica, who was supposedly fleeing, made Garfield rush over, eyes bulging.
What the hell are you still doing here? What happened to Ram's sis, the general, and the rest?
I fulfilled the duty entrusted to me. You understand the reason I remained behind, don't you?
Seeing Frederica close one eye as she spoke these words shut Garfield right up. He could see a number of wounds Frederica had sustained. Of course he could. In keeping the Beastmaster at bay, she must have taken on countless demon beasts in the process. Unlike Garfield, who had trained and trained as he kept struggling to become stronger, his elder sister had no doubt spent many days that had nothing to do with fighting. Just how deeply had this battle cut into his sister's flesh and bones?
Don't make such a pathetic face.
Noticing Garfield's gloomy expression, Frederica landed an open palm chop right on his wide-open forehead. Though it didn't hurt, Garfield let out a reflexive ow, glaring at his older sister.
Garf, I understand you are being considerate, but I too am a servant of the Mathers family. For better or worse, I have had the fundamentals of self-defense drilled into me.
Ya say that, but, then again, Ram's damn strong. Aight, you've convinced me.
The fact that you chose her as the most relevant point of comparison puts me in a slightly awkward position.
Frederica put a hand to her forehead as she clacked her fangs, seeming a little troubled. Perhaps it could be chalked up to them being siblings, but Garfield and Frederica were exactly alike in certain habits. And apparently, Garfield and Frederica weren't the only ones around with this kind of relationship.
Mealy, are you all right? I hope you're safe, but I do wish you didn't interfere.
Sheesh. Elsa, you're so self-centered. The main reason I have to work this hard is because you ran off ahead. You'd better reflect on that.
Once we're done here, I'll make it up to you. Now do your job.
Elsa's reply made Maylee pout as she obediently got to work. The moment the young girl clapped her hands, the boulder-like creature instantly swung its body around and then slowly turned its head toward Garfield and Frederica. Garfield sensed other demon beasts drawing near from both inside and outside the mansion. She truly was a Beastmaster. However, Elsa quizzically cocked her head to the side with a questioning look.
The number of demon beasts seems rather low.
The big maid nailed a bunch of them before we got here. Besides, the mansion's been set on fire. On top of that, it seems like the Shadow Lion died.
Mealy, answering Elsa's question with a sour look on her face, continued.
It was a rare one that obeyed me despite still having its horn, but its short temper was the flaw in that jewel, and it failed me right when I needed it most.
I have trouble understanding why you brought such a difficult demon beast along to begin with.
Because no one else could keep the others in line. Anyway, Elsa, what about your opponent?
Looking down at the corridor from atop the demon beast, Maylee caught sight of Garfield. She went, letting out a breath of deep interest with a passionate smile that was extremely strange for a girl of her age on numerous levels.
Elsa has her eyes on you, Mr. Scary Face. You poor thing.
If it's a nasty face you want, there's no topping the general. So what? You sisters gonna come at me together?
Garfield's reply earned him a look of surprise not only on Maylee's face but Elsa's as well. They weren't shocked at being called sisters. Certainly, the two didn't seem connected by blood. The pair might have been similar in appearance, but was far more difficult to claim a family resemblance. But they were most definitely sisters. That was what Garfield's intuition told him.
Sisters. Yes, I suppose you're right. So now that we have sisters gathered on one side and siblings on the other, I think it's time we got back to business, don't you?
Standing beside the demon beast, Elsa posed the question as she pointed the tip of her kukri toward him. With a quick glance, Garfield checked on Frederica's state as she stood beside him. Her breathing was ragged, her face was pale from blood loss, and her visible wounds were, on average, ones that could not simply be shrugged off.
Garf.
Noticing his gaze, Frederica called out to him. Garfield could not help but force out a smile at the emotions infused within her simple mention of his name. "Don't be disappointed in me," Frederica's gaze begged. Quietly, Garfield stepped forward. This was where everything would be settled.
The mansion's on fire. We got a horde of demon beasts outside, and my older sister behind me is trying to put up a strong front, as battered as she is. Got a bunch of people I gotta save and some powerful enemies whose teeth I gotta kick in. The general said he's counting on me, and the girl I love chewed me out real good, too.
What in the world is Mr. Scaryface getting at?
Ain't it obvious? Ain't it obvious?
Strangely, Elsa and Maylee both had their heads tilted at the exact same angle. In contrast to their questioning looks, Garfield clacked his fangs with a radiant look on his face.
With a situation like this, what man in the world wouldn't be burning up? It's time to do this. This is basically before the dragon, Sword Saint Reed, drew his sword and laughed.
That's an idiom for someone who's seriously messed up in the head, you know?
Yeah, and I'm about to take on the both of you, so how's that the wrong thing to say?
Garfield bluntly acknowledged the level of his own recklessness. Elsa blinked hard, temporarily at a loss. However, this lasted for only a few moments. Elsa broke into a smile as the light of madness flared in her eyes. She licked her lips in anticipation.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Garfield slammed his shields together as he prepared to face his eager opponent.
Wait a second. Elsa, have you already forgotten what we came here to do? Mama's gonna scold us.
I suppose so. You deal with the other one, then. I want to focus on this child.
Boo, you always do this, asking me to do stuff at the drop of a hat. I mean, really.
Mealy complained about how Elsa was abandoning the job, but before she could finish her thought, Garfield drove home why it was important to not get distracted. Suddenly raising a battle cry, Garfield poured his strength into the sole of his foot. Instantly, it punched through the half-destroyed mansion and straight into the ground, kicking up a square of soil. Thus, he launched it forward with a tremendous kick. Elsa dropped into a low stance that verged on crawling on all fours as she evaded the hurtling missile of packed earth. But the boulder-like demon beast behind her, unable to dodge as quickly with its enormous frame, sustained a direct hit. The impact bowled it over, sending it spinning and crashing into the wall. Maylee, who had been riding said demon beast, was thrown off it by the sheer force. Elsa slid in to catch her just before she would have hit the ground head first.
Gee, Garf, what in the world did you do just now?
That's the power of my blessing. As long as my feet are planted on the ground, I can hit whatever I can see. I'll say this only once. I won't let you interfere with this fight. Not you, and not the little sister over there either.
Garfield bared his fangs as he made his declaration. But the blessing of the Earth Spirit wasn't nearly as potent as he claimed. Beyond heightening his healing abilities, his power was fully capable of churning up the ground or causing it to cave in. However, the range of this was limited to where his limbs could reach. In other words, he was bluffing. But precisely because it was a bluff, Garfield smugly smiled. He had learned from Subaru, and Otto these were the times where a smile was absolutely necessary.
Mealy, leave the bare minimum outside to maintain the perimeter. Call the others and rouse that demon beast over there.
You're gonna make Mama angry.
freed from Elsa's arms, Mealy murmured in a low voice. However, she had already grasped that the situation didn't leave them with many options. Sighing, Mealy blew a finger whistle. She quietly waited as the shrill, high-pitched sound echoed throughout the manor grounds. The demon beasts would be coming. A large force was on its way, gathering to crush Garfield and Frederica. His lust for battle flared even brighter. His soul howled he could not lose here.
I will pluck your limbs off to lighten you and take you home with me. I will love you longer than your cherished person.
Ain't I? There even one option to make ya give up on the whole bow thing?
Speaking in exasperation as he cracked his neck, Garfield adopted a forward-leaning stance as he prepared to intercept his foe. Her upper body swaying, Elsa lowered both hands and let her kukri knives fall to the floor. In their place, she held a pair of vile, malevolent blades, one white, one black, both gleaming in the moonlight.
Sis, just focus on protecting yourself.
Mealy, you mustn't move a single step forward.
Without any signal, they clashed head-on, leaving their respective sisters behind. The battle between the Bow Hunter and the Sanctuary's shield entered its final scene. Then the corridor of the mansion exploded into a confused, chaotic battle, a banquet of blood, flesh, and bloodlust. When a green tail passed before his eyes, Garfield opened his fangs and bit down without a second thought. Purple fluid sprayed, and the noxious liquid burned as it spattered across his flesh, but he cared not. With a mighty swipe of his arm, he smashed both of the two-headed snake's skulls. An instant later, malevolent death in the form of a curved blade grazed just past the tip of his chin. Following in the wake of that slash, a gust blew the remains of the ruined demon beast away. After his momentary brush with death, Garfield advanced instead of giving ground, smacking the face of impending doom away. Both his arms were spread out wide, catching his opponent by the torso and flank. Her bones and viscera squelched as powerful hands twisted wherever they found purchase. In his ears and before his eyes, a cacophony of bestial roars came from every direction. Anguished cries, screams, and his own yells mixed together. These overlapped with the sounds of metal crashing and scraping against steel. Sound and light were so muddled that it was hard to tell what was even happening. But Garfield didn't care. The resistance he felt, his gnashing fangs, and the bloody smile he caught glimpses of were all genuine. The brute force of his attacks were making the killer before him spit blood, staining her pleasant smile so much that it was more black than red. Yet, even as she weathered those brutal attacks meant to rob her of life, the pleasure never left the woman's black eyes. Garfield instinctively felt that more than her combat ability, more than her vitality, it was her mind that was the most dangerous part of her nature.
Yeah.
Gah!
A short breath was answered by a howl. The woman's left arm was removed, and the wicked blade it held vanished from Garfield's field of view. Immediately after, there was a series of high-pitched sounds, first behind her, then reflecting off the wall, bouncing off the ceiling, striking the floor, and from there, the wicked blade flew right at Garfield's back. After a moment of indecision, Garfield decided against turning around as he focused his attention on the woman as she prepared to attack with her right arm, allowing the deadly blade to bury itself into his right shoulder, momentarily locking him in place. The lethal attack was about to land. That was when he kicked up the remains of the two-headed snake between him and the blade aimed at the back of his head. The corpse kept the keen edge from slicing into him, but the blunt force was still effective. The blow dazed him and knocked him into a spin, creating a fatal opening. Or at least it would have had he not poured all his strength into his feet beforehand. With the blessing of the Earth Spirit, he propelled himself off the floor in a single leap. Garfield's unexpected behavior and counterattack caught the woman by surprise. In the span of a few moments, he swung his left arm in a low arc to grab the woman's face, a left arm growing explosively as it became a monstrous limb. Using partial transformation, he tore at her face, as if to rip it right off.
Gee.
The clawing left intense gouges, stronger and deeper than the one that had once smashed her face. The 5-finger blades carved deep inside her skull, making even that woman scream and slowing the movements of her feet.
Rah!
The woman took a direct kick straight to the torso, sending her body flying backward with ease. With her ribs already broken and her internal organs already crushed, It would not have been strange had she died from the pain from being slashed and pounded like that alone. But even as fresh blood coursed from the prone woman, a broken, laughing voice also escaped her. Her life had not been extinguished. Her fighting spirit was undiminished. Her nature was unsalvageable for all eternity.
Ta! It's just one thing after another.
Just as Garfield was preparing to launch a follow-up attack, demon beasts cut across the battlefield to bear down upon him. Mice with black wings, large, ferocious dogs with mottled patterns on their bodies, and a horde of two-headed snakes burning with rage for their slain kin, plus one back-in-action enormous pile of boulders aptly called a rock pig, all came rushing at him.
Garf, I'll handle those.
Right as Garfield braced himself against the demon beasts aiming to land a surprise attack, the monsters were ripped asunder somewhere behind him. There was no time to turn around, but he could still tell that Frederica's ferocious attacks were mowing their foes down. All that remained was for Garfield to deal with the one charging at him with a frame large enough to rival the whole mansion.
Get pancaked!
Receiving Mealy's command, the rock pig bounded forward with its woefully short 4 legs, leaping toward him. No longer was this simply a charging beast. It had transformed into a projectile with the mass of a falling building. No single person had the power to withstand such a blow, which was precisely what the monster's instincts cried out. Spreading and firmly planting both feet, Garfield called upon the full force of his blessing of the earth spirit. The blessing of the soil conveyed through the soles of his feet made the tendons and muscles of his entire body swell and throb. The blood lurking within him burst forth as his flesh changed form.
Oh!
The booming roar of his soul was not directed outward. It reverberated within his own flesh and blood. His abominable, difficult-to-accept bloodline had been a constant and not always welcome part of his life. Now, of his own volition, he summoned it forth, seized control of it, and turned it into raw power to carve out his own destiny. His skeleton creaked and groaned as it transformed. His neck, his torso, and his head were changing into those of a beast. A great golden tiger's mane sprouted as his clothes burst apart, unable to withstand the pressure. But the shields attached to both his arms remained in place, now looking like bangles on swelling arms that appeared to be violence incarnate, rivaling even the rock pig in stature. The two males, or rather, the beasts, collided. The impact was felt across the mansion, spawning an explosive sound that ripped through the air. The rocky demon beast's ramming attack was stopped cold as the ferocious tiger pounded its great sword-like claws into the pig's face. Some of the claws were ripped off at their base by the thick, formidable hide, though not slain by the force of the charge. The great tiger was nonetheless forced back, reeling as its enormous opponent followed up by stomping down on its chest from straight above, driving the tiger into the floor and drawing sprays of blood.
Keep it up, rock piggy.
Even though she heard the sounds of its bones breaking and its flesh being crushed, the demon beast's master did not let her guard down. Obeying its master's almost tearful command, the rock pig issued a roar as it raised both its front paws upward, coming down for a second stomp that was aimed at the great tiger's skull. But before it could, the ferocious tiger used the strength of its abdominal muscles to launch its body upward. The demon beast took the blow straight in its wide-open gut. The demon beast with boulder-like hide normally never revealed its belly, where its defenses were thin and fragile. Sharp fangs pierced the tough skin, which the tiger's claws had failed to penetrate, cutting deep into the flesh. While keeping its mouth lodged in the rock pig's gut, the ferocious great tiger rolled its body sideways. This tore at the prey's flesh, which was still caught on the fangs, and was the predatory behavior characteristic of the water dragons. The great tiger's fangs rent flesh not to consume but to kill without mercy. There was a vast amount of blood and viscera that poured out proportional to its prey's enormous frame. The gore flowed out in a veritable wave, flooding the mansion corridor. The whites of its eyes bared, the rock pig uttered a frail death cry as it collapsed.
No way. You unbelievable. I don't believe this.
Mealy backed away as Garfield spat out blood and entrails, pushing the enormous corpse away. She'd whistled with her fingers to gather a horde of demon beasts together, but now that all the big ones like Rock Piggy had been wiped out, only small and medium-sized ones were left to answer the call. Her advantage had crumbled in mere moments.
Look what you've done. Elsa, Elsa, do something.
What a slave driver you are.
Tousling her braid, the killer responded to Maylee's tearful cry for help. Slowly, Elsa Gramhilda's raven-black hair swayed as she approached, her savage face having already regenerated. Exuding seductive charm and a murderous beauty, she shot Garfield a passionate glance.
You tore into a woman's face without hesitation. You truly are marvelous.
Garg, raw!
The smiling woman's vile, blood-marred visage made the great tiger growl with a fierce shake of its broken shoulders. The trembling tiger's massive frame grew taut as the enlarged flesh gradually returned to human form. A few seconds later, a half-naked boy reappeared on the field of battle.
Ah, crap, looks like I am back. Head freaking hurts.
I see. So that makes you a half-beast. I thought you were merely a human with a foul look in his eyes.
Gotta say, if that was the rule, no way our general to be human.
Shaking his head, Garfield checked how his body felt upon his returning to human form. The process of compressing his skeleton back into a smaller body had joined his broken shoulders enough that they could move at least. That said, even slight movements made creaks and white-hot pains shoot through him. It would be a long time before he would move at full strength again.
You said it didn't bother you, but you must be thinking it is rather absurd by now. Even though you are injured all over, my wounds are simply healing. The gap between us grows greater as time passes. Do you not think it is unfair?
There was not a single scratch to be seen on Elsa's long, slender limbs. If the blood was wiped off, the luster of her white skin would be unmarred underneath. In contrast, Garfield's wounds were only becoming graver. Perhaps it was logical to condemn that so-called immortality as an unfair advantage.
Me? I ain't ready to give up. And I ain't taking back what I said.
Shaking his head, he rejected such timid thoughts. He never needed them to begin with.
You ain't immortal. It's that you won't die till someone kills you, right? Ain't that right, vampire?
You knew.
I had a hunch. Me, I loved reading books since way back. I knew there were special sorts like that. Didn't think I'd meet one right after leaving home, though.
From time to time, books from the outside world found their way into the sanctuary, though Garfield had no idea who the sender might have been, nor could he tell from the types of books what they hoped he might learn from them. Garfield read anything he could so that he might one day find a way to butcher whatever it was that saddened the woman he'd fallen for. It was in the course of those studies that he had read somewhere that the beings known as vampires possess special characteristics.
Apparently, one of the old witches was 1-2. That witch is dead, and that means you can die too.
Garfield had already dealt Elsa what were supposed to be fatal wounds 4 times and counting. Even if she'd inherited that characteristic from an immortal monster of legend, her regenerative power had to have limits. It'd take probably 1 or 2 more times, and that'd settle things. But before it came to that,
If your little sister swears to never do evil ever again, I ain't unwilling to let her go.
You truly are an adorable child.
with a smile, she dashed the final bouquet of compassion he offered her. That was his signal. With an explosive step, Garfield leaped straight forward. A wicked blade sliced directly down to intercept him, aiming to cleave his head. The force of the attack tore the mansion corridor apart. Catching the attack on his shield, the blade cut shallowly into his breast. Heedless of the spatter of blood, he pressed on, continuing to advance.
Gusteco, where I was born, is a very, very cold land far to the north.
They continued to exchange blows when suddenly words woven like a song slipped into his eardrums. He shouldn't have heard it. His consciousness was ablaze, intercepting and dealing lethal strikes with every passing moment, leaving no room for such a voice to slip through. That should have been the case, but it sneaked in regardless.
It is a country with a vast chasm between rich and poor. Children abandoned by the destitute are not a rarity. I was one myself, without parents for as long as I can remember, living off what stagnant water and scraps I could find.
Raw!
I stole, and I hurt people. Days spent like that blended together. What was I living for? What was happiness? In those days, I had no time to think about such things.
Garfield gave a mighty swing of his arm to blow Elsa's face away. She sidestepped the attack. A silver arc flashed. He tilted his body to dodge it. Evasion became counterattack, only to be foiled. Distance opened between them.
That day was a particularly cold day.
Shut up! I ain't listening!
On that day, the wind blowing down from the sacred mountain was cold, and it was freezing inside the city. Amid raging snow so cold it froze even your breath, I was working as a thief when a shop owner caught me.
Elsa let out a tender sigh, speaking as if she were watching a dream. The fury of her blade grew wilder, carving into Garfield as his shoulder injuries dulled his defenses.
No. One would have complained had he killed me then, but I was a woman. Even now I remember the vulgar smile on that man's face as he started to tear off my clothes.
Gah!
As that cold, freezing wind blew, he stripped off my tunic and even took my underwear. Sent a fare and even took my underwear. When I thought it was better to freeze to death than to suffer whatever indignities he would subject me to, I picked up a piece of glass that just happened to be close by.
She raised one of her long legs and kicked at the side of Garfield's head, sending him crashing into the wall. The impact stunned him, rattling his brain, but he'd also shattered the arch of Elsa's foot in the process. Her expression of ecstasy sent a shudder straight through him.
It was not as if I meant to do it. It just so happened that I thrust the piece of glass into his belly. I felt no hesitation at taking another's life. I felt nothing as I listened to the man scream. But in that cold wind, one thought occurred to me.
As Garfield's breath caught, Elsa flashed a vacant, engrossed smile like a maiden in love.
Why are blood and intestines so warm?
He escaped from the reach of the lashing blade, which practically crawled across the ground, nearly shearing off his ankles as he unleashed a kick. Elsa evaded his attack with a leap away. Garfield clicked his tongue as the killer distanced herself. He wasn't simply irritated by the difficulty of taking her down.
If there is anything that can be called true happiness in this world, it must be found in the warmth that lets you forget the cold. It was that day I, a person born with nothing, finally gained something that truly belonged to me. For the first time, I was happy. I suppose you cannot understand that.
I don't wanna either.
That's fine. I wasn't hoping for you to sympathize with me anyway.
Then why did you have to tell me all that crap? It's disgusting.
I wonder why myself.
Looking at Garfield, whose eyes contained nothing save hostility, Elsa curiously tilted her head. Then she narrowed her mystified eyes, her cheeks faintly blushing as she gazed at Garfield.
Most likely because I am quite fond of you.
Sorry, but I have already fallen for a woman. I ain't got time for some chick messed up in the head.
How cold. But that's fine. I only have business with what's inside you after all.
She almost seemed to make sense, but in the end, Garfield couldn't understand a single thing about her. Having listened to Elsa's personal tale, Garfield came to one conclusion. Of course, he had no intention of understanding her, nor did he intend to forgive her. The only thing he could do was end her.
I'm gonna kill you, Elsa Gramhilde.
It is because you will kill me that you were my first love, Garfield Tinsel.
Calling each other by name was the one and only connection they shared. The rest they entrusted to violence. The wicked blades became light, raging, carving, slicing the half-destroyed mansion corridor apart. Amid that shower of blades, Garfield dodged. No, he defended with the minimum amount of movement with his shields, holding his ground. Blood flowed as a blade nicked his shoulder, his belly, his leg, and his head, but Garfield was unshaken. The distance shrank to 6 paces. Garfield swung his left arm, sending the shield atop it flying straight forward. At 5 paces, the shield struck Elsa's arm, shattering her fingers, causing her to drop the weapon in her left hand. At 4 paces, countless slicing attacks came at the now defenseless left side of his torso, drawing blood. He did not stop. At 3 paces, he stomped with the sole of his foot. The ground exploded and rose up. The mansion uttered its death cry and broke apart. At 2 paces, the Bowel Hunter struck with a spinning attack at maximum speed, which he aimed at his torso with more force than he'd ever witnessed in his entire life. At 1 pace, he covered his chest with his right shield, the arm underneath breaking as he parried the Bowel Hunter's blow.
Do you think you blocked it? Don't be careless.
Garfield heard that laughter-filled voice as she dropped a long leg toward his face. The descending heel and the dully gleaming blade embedded within were aimed right at the center of Garfield's head.
Elsa!
Suddenly, a shriek-like voice made Elsa leap back. The east wing of the mansion, after being engulfed in flame and withstanding repeated blows, was finally collapsing. Mealy, right under one of the falling fragments, clutched her head and called out to her elder sister. It was there that Elsa leaped. She slammed her blade in, carving apart the falling rubble overhead. She sliced, gouged, and penetrated the plummeting pieces one after another. And yet the cascade of debris never ceased. Without warning, a gust rushed past her feet. The wind, sporting a beautiful and supple beast with a golden mane, grabbed the girl in danger of being crushed by falling rubble, carrying her to safety.
Elsa!
Whisked away by the beautiful four-legged beast, Mealy desperately called out to Elsa as the creature leaped outside. Elsa did not turn toward her. Garfield had already come. The blade in Elsa's right hand clashed with the bestial claws of Garfield's left. With a destructive sound, Garfield's left arm was ruined, while Elsa's right wrist was left in ugly tatters. Fresh blood scattered all about as Elsa thrust her useless arm forward to shove Garfield down. They jostled, practically embracing each other as they bit into each other's necks, then separated as if repelled. The left side of her neck was hot. Elsa was unable to even put a hand on the wound, which was bleeding freely, but her cheeks were flushed nonetheless. Her breath was so hot that it almost seemed like it changed color. Her eyes were filled with unquenchable passion. Then she watched as Garfield hoisted up the rock pig's massive body and hurled it. The boy's eyes blazed with ferocious emotion even as his neck bled from the wound her teeth had left behind. Though she knew where the arc of the hurled mass of rock would end, Elsa continued to gaze at the man she longed for until the very end. Her labored breaths came unsteadily. As she gazed at the golden-haired boy who aroused such excitement deep in her chest, she said only one thing.
So thrilling.
The woman, the murderess, the vampire, the Bowel Hunter, was completely and utterly crushed by the incredible mass. Fresh blood splattered, mixing with the demon beast's bodily fluids. There was no sign of revival, only the aroma of death. Garfield let up a war cry, one that reached high into the sky, reverberating throughout the burning and crumbling mansion. So ended the battle between the Bowel Hunter and the Sanctuary's shield. Zero, Starting Life in Another World by Tapi Nagatsuki, casted six-tale novel. Please subscribe to our channel. Despite what the dramatic display of colors may have implied, the conflict unfolding was a highly advanced magical battle of precise technique. With a staff swing, blades of wind were created and loosed at their target. The invisible attack bore down on the intended victim's legs with enough force to slice apart steel. She had deliberately cast the spell out of sync with her gaze and breathing, even adding in a feint attack for good measure. These were...
Surely this is not all you are capable of!
With great ease, her enemy, Rosewell, stopped the invisible attack with a flick of his toes. Seeing that happen and realizing the level of skill that was required to make it possible made her throat freeze over. Dispelling magic by simply stomping on it was a feat far easier said than done. With the tips of his toes, Rosewall had rewritten the composition of the spell. Through his gait, he had altered the mana cast by another person without interfering with their gait directly. Performing such an act in the middle of a battle with one's life on the line was not the action of a sane person. The one who had done this was Roswall L. Mathers, famed magic user, current lord of the House of Roswall, and the man who still desired the title of the greatest court magician of the age.
Now I'll send one right back at you!
Speaking in a casual tone, Rosewall moved both his hands and his mouth, deploying a trio of incantations from his fingers and lips alike. This was not a simple combining of elements, but simultaneously casting 3 different spells at once, a technique that verged on the realm of gods. It was an insane technique that all but required 3 brains to accomplish, and even this was not the true limits of his potential. It was because she understood this more than anyone that the girl, Ram, was filled with energy as she evaded the resulting downpour of flames. It was then, when he was still not taking this seriously and using the full extent of his powers, that she had a chance of victory. Ram responded to the 3 incoming fireballs, respectively colored red, blue, and green, by leaping backward and then intercepting them with more blades of wind. She would slice them away before shifting to a counterattack. But before she could, something upset her plans. The red flame accepted her wind, acting as if she had poured oil onto it. The force of the flames increased as it transformed into a pillar of fire. The wind split the blue flame apart, scattering it in all directions, which only further spread its destructive reach. The green flame absorbed her wind, transforming into a snake of fire that crawled across the earth, causing havoc in its wake. She responded to every one with all her strength. She vaulted over the intense flaming pillar, kicked off a large tree to evade the curtain of blue flames, and as the green flaming snake opened its jaws to catch Ram with its fangs once she landed.
Goodness, what petty tricks, Rosewall. You should know better.
A moment before being engulfed by the flaming snake, a calm voice slid into Ram's eardrums. In contrast to those quiet words, what occurred next was virtually overwhelming. With its mouth still open, the burning snake froze over. The flying flames and the blazing pillar met similar ends. This was the antithesis of employing multiple spells simultaneously, using a single unstoppable spell to snuff everything out. And the one who had accomplished this was the little cat floating in the sky, short arms folded, the Great Spirit, Puck. The little cat cocked his head, turning his tail, which was as long as his body, toward Roswell as he laughed.
You might have learned a lot of tricks, but you'll need to go big to deal with the likes of me.
How harsh. I take it that Lady Amelia developed her tendency to favor brute force approaches from you.
No comment.
Crossing his arms in front of him, Puck did not give Rosewall's inconvenient assertion a reply. After that, Puck slowly lowered his altitude, landing on the shoulder of Ram, who was breathing hard, as he lined up right beside her head.
Are you all right? Pushing yourself too hard will be bad for your body.
You may save your concern. After all, it is thanks to the Great Spirit's assistance that I can now manage this battle.
No need to act tough, but when push comes to shove, manage is putting it nicely. You're an Oni girl without a horn, and I'm a handsome wild spirit without a host. But even with both of us at half-strength double-teaming him, he's still toying with us.
Wiping some soot from her brow with the sleeve, Ram internally concurred with Puck's analysis. Earlier, she'd considered counterattacking while he was still toying with them, but she was a long way from even that much. Yes, she was depleted from the battle with Garfield, and Puck was in poor condition to assist, but more importantly,
You're strong, Roswell. I have to admire how far a mere human has come after honing themselves.
I am honored to receive your praise.
Rosewall offered an elegant bow in response to his assessment. It was a theatrical gesture, but by showing that he still had the poise to put on such a display, Rosewall demonstrated that even in this situation, the advantage was still very much his. The battle that had kicked off at the witch's experimental facility deep in the forest of Crimaldi had shifted, moving away from the building and into the woods. The traces of the battle had already left the area around the facility a sorry-looking wasteland. There were scorch marks all over, blades of wind had toppled one tree after another, and countless trees had been flash-frozen. Looking at all this, Rosewall then turned one eye, his yellow eye, toward Ram.
I was indeed correct to bring this outside. If we had rampaged like this inside, that facility, or rather, that magic crystal would have been broken, which would have been quickly inconvenient.
Of course you would have accomplished your goal even so, for was that not your aim?
Are you claiming I asked the Great Spirit to delay you while I destroyed the facility? Surely you jest.
Ram laughed off the assertion, causing Rosewall to raise an eyebrow in surprise. His reaction made Ram loosen her lips.
After all, by doing such a thing, Ram's objective would go forever unfulfilled.
All that said, continuing this indefinitely will work to no one's advantage. Yes, you strove for a means to fill the gap between our combat capabilities, but the great spirit you have beseeched is far from peak condition. But the great spirit you have beseeched is far from peak condition.
Yes, I suppose so. He is more useless than expected. Not even Ram can conceal her disappointment. You really don't sugarcoat your words, huh? Not that I dislike that part of you. Though, I have to admit, I'm impressed by how meticulous you are. How and when did you cast that spell on Leah?
Spell! Great spirit, to what do you refer?
Well, just listen. It got really hard to come out of my icon ever since we returned from the royal capital. If that was all, I would have pegged it as some kind of scheme by the witch cult group that attacked the village and the mansion, but I was stuck in there even after reaching the sanctuary. Though the spell had to come not from an enemy, but from one of our own.
Ram furrowed her shapely eyebrows, unable to grasp the meaning of Puck's words. But Rosewall made no effort to interrupt the little cat's words, quietly soaking them up until the last.
There's a set period when I'm not able to come out of my icon that's related to the pact, you see. It was a little early, but at first, I thought that's what it was. Well, there's also the memories Leah sealed away herself, so I thought it might be more convenient not to talk to her about them. But I was wrong.
As he spoke, Puck's voice lowered but slightly. The tenor of the little cat's voice, from which no emotion could normally be detected, held a perceptible timbre of deep indignation.
You used my oaths to remove me as Leah's guardian, didn't you? That has to be why you cast a spell on Leah when we returned from the capital. That girl adores me, after all.
Strictly speaking, is it not better to say you are a smothering father who cannot leave the girl Sid?
When you put it that way, it's hard to deny being overprotective, huh?
As Puck gave a shrug with his tiny shoulders, Rosewall did not deny it as he closed one eye, his blue eye.
Fortunately, Lady Amelia was in low spirits from her argument with young Subaru. A little sabotage of your pact with Lady Amelia before departing for the sanctuary was a trifling affair.
On the other hand, a pact between spirit and spirit mage is sacred. It's not something that can be toyed with from the outside.
Even so, I have lived with Beatrice for quite a long time, you see. For better or worse, creating loopholes in predetermined things is a specialty of mine, though that girl is too obstinate for such things.
As he spoke about pacts, Rosewall seemed to gaze into the distance for just a moment. The sight made the corners of Puck's black eyes fall ever so slightly as he crossed his short arms.
You wanted Leah to stay depressed, didn't you?
Yes, that is why you needed to be removed. It is not an exaggeration to say that hindering you and young Subaru has caused me the most trouble of all. Subaru is a wild card. You are the only one who actually stands a chance of defeating me in a head-on battle.
I don't like saying this, but it seems like both you and I expect a lot out of Subaru.
Perish the thought. The expectations you and I have of him cannot possibly be comparable.
Instantly, Rosewall's tone hardened, seeming to lose a small amount of his composure. As Rosewall expressed his expectations for Subaru, he pressed a hand to his chest, clenching it into a fist. The gesture left Ram narrowing her eyes as she felt a throbbing pain in her own breast. She knew how out of place it was, but Ram could not help but be jealous at how much he placed his hopes in Subaru.
To me, he is the final key to bringing my greatest desire into reach. You, on the other hand, intend to put him to the grindstone to see if he is worthy of your beloved daughter. Your thinking is very different from mine.
Don't! Bark at me, Rosewall.
As Rosewell's voice became infused with fierce emotion, the cold hostility pouring down became frigid, glacial. Puck's mouse-colored hair was standing up, bringing his presence into sharper relief as he continued.
Just like you and your desire, I offered myself to Leah, the reason for my existence. Are you suggesting it's easy for me to entrust Leah to someone else? Don't get cocky, witch's apprentice.
From that last part, I take it you now remember things from prior to your pact.
I'm deducing a lot from the situation, you see. But considering whose forest this is, I have a pretty good idea who imposed this pact on me. I remember a man who spoke a lot like you, too. Is it to remember your wounds or to punish yourself? Either way, it's very backward-looking of you.
Puck's words gradually sounded more like words of pity than of reproach. Receiving them, Rosewall went. Backward-looking. Is it? Twisting his lips in what seemed to be self-mockery.
Indeed it is. I have always been looking backward, looking at the past. To me, the only wonderful things that have ever existed are in the past. The present is merely what rests atop their bones.
So that's why you obey the Book of Knowledge. You're struggling to take back the past that you've lost. Rosewall's claim made Ram clench her cheeks as she glanced at Puck, who sighed. Then Puck wearily shook his head side to side.
I won't belittle your way of life. It's just
Just what?
Betty would be sad, Roswell.
Rosewall's expression faintly stiffened. Just how much terrible significance did that single sentence possess? And then...
Yeah. I'll go,
Because I hit the bullseye? How childish.
Without preparation or word of warning, fiery missiles shot forth. A towering wall of ice immediately intercepted them. The sound of their collision rang out. A white shockwave flattened the trees of the forest, heralding that combat had recommenced.
Guess we're done buying time. Did that give your horn a breather?
Puck's words, spoken with a deft wink the moment before she leaped, left Ram mentally clicking her tongue. She told him that she did not want him to worry about her. The little cat proved a poor listener. What annoyed her more than anything was the frailty of her own body that made the short rest just now a lifesaver. But what of it? She would never breathe a single word of complaint about her body not being in tip-top condition. What gave her any right to complain if she did not give it her all? If she lost without her feelings ever reaching him, she could whine and make excuses as much as she liked in the afterlife.
Fulla.
Tightly clenching her teeth, she swallowed her frustration and righted her staff. Timed with an explosion of the ground, she flew into the air, touching her feet against a large tree's trunk to invert her posture as she converted her mana, unleashing it as blades of wind. There was no lethal intent behind her attacks. However, even if she aimed to kill, it would not have resulted in as much as a scratch regardless. Rosewall's response to the mighty blow was skilled and delicate. He rewrote the composition of the incoming magic, disassembling the wind blades into mere mana and capturing it with his own gate to assign it a different form. There was the threefold magic using both his hands and his mouth that he had displayed earlier. And on top of that, he used a step to activate the magic he had internalized, unleashing 4 spells simultaneously in an outrageous display of magic.
Grew.
Twisting her lips, Ram put strength into the soles of her feet, which rested against the tree trunk, leaping away at full power. Instantly, the magic, which seemed sure to bite into that large tree, changed its course, curving to tail her as she fled.
How? Persistent.
Spitting out those words, she slammed more wind into the pair of approaching fiery missiles, landed on the ground, drew them in before rolling backward at the last moment. This forced the one flame that did not keep up with the turn to slam into the ground, and she thrust her staff straight forward into the final flaming shot.
Now burst!
Using the tip of her staff to shred the mana apart, Ram moved so the blast from the fiery missile passed behind her. It was during that momentary opening that she...
It is too soon to relax.
Advancing with long strides, Roswald drove a punch toward Ram's torso. This was a steel-like fist he had honed through extreme training completely unrelated to magical study. Its destructive power was so great that if it connected, it would affect not only bone, but the internal organs as well. The instant it struck, a layer of ice caught the blow. Puck, the one who had created the instantaneous defense, whistled.
So you've trained a whole lot in more than just magic.
I do whatever is necessary. If there is ample time, the only cost is the wearing down of the soul. Accordingly,
Opening the fist that had struck the ice shield, Roswald twisted his hips and lunged with a thrust of his palm. Of course, the ice kept him from reaching Ram, and yet the impact shot through Ram's body nonetheless.
Gah!
that is a combat technique I learned from a ninja who hailed from the west long ago to strike from afar, reaching even past defenses. Effective, yes. Effective, yes?
Struck not by a direct hit but by a shockwave, Ram staggered backward. Her bones creaked and her innards cried out. It was better than suffering a clean blow, but her body had a fatal weakness and could not risk sustaining any injuries to begin with. Her breathing was ragged and her vision blurred. Ram's footing was unreliable. She lifted up her face when,